Chapter 347. After stepping into the early stage of the embodiment realm, Chen Hao did not set off immediately. Instead, he consolidated his realm and tempered his true essence to familiarize himself with the explosive increase in strength. The pain that Chen Hao endured during the second heavenly punishment was even more terrifying than the first. However, Chen Hao wished that he could trigger the heavenly punishment every day. One had to admit that the heavenly punishment's tempering of the body and mind was absolutely incomparable to any cultivation holy land. Chi-chi-chi, bang-bang-bang. Terrifying sword lights, palm shadows, fist shadows, and leg shadows floated in the cultivation room. Chen Hao's figure moved as fast as lightning as he familiarized himself with each of his powers. Buzz. At this moment, a faint buzzing sound came from the door of the cultivation room. Is there something important? Chen Hao, whose upper body was bare, suddenly stopped and thought in his heart. Then he quickly put on his robe and walked out of the training room. Senior sister, what's the matter? Chen Hao opened the door of the palace and asked Dongfang Ting with a puzzled expression. Someone is looking for you. Who is it? Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. During this period of time, he had been in seclusion. In the beginning, there were many people who came to visit him. However, after they knew that Chen Hao was cultivating in seclusion, no one came to disturb him. Only when there were important matters would Yuan Tairan occasionally ask him to come out. She's called Chen Shui. She said that she had an appointment with you. Junior brother, is she the girl who was with you in the city in the sky? She's very beautiful and has a very powerful aura. She's even stronger than our grand elder. Cough cough. Is she so powerful? She's at the guest peak. Do you want to see her? She's not an outsider. Forget it, I'll go receive her. After Chen Hao finished speaking, he disappeared in front of Dongfang Ting. Dongfang Ting was slightly taken aback. She looked in the direction that Chen Hao disappeared and thought to herself, not an outsider? Does junior brother mean that he and Chen Shui are also Dao companions? Perhaps only such an outstanding girl can catch junior brother's eye. There are already 4 of them, and each is stronger than the last. I really don't know how many he will have in the future. Senior brother Chen Hao. Senior brother Chen Hao. When Chen Hao appeared on the welcoming peak, all the disciples who saw Chen Hao greeted Chen Hao with shock and admiration. After sensing Chen Hao's aura, Chen Shui, who was sitting upright in a pavilion, suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of Chen Hao. She was still wearing a blue dress with a black veil covering her face. Her graceful and exquisite body was curvaceous. Even Chen Hao, who had not seen a beauty for a long time, felt his eyes light up. Peak of the late-stage embodiment realm. Aren't you a little too fast? Chen Hao stared at Chen Shui, who was also looking directly at him, and said with a little surprise. Is it fast? I think it's already very slow. The corners of Chen Shui's mouth curled up slightly, and she seemed to speak rather proudly. However, he felt a little proud in his heart. Of course, if it was the other her, it would definitely not have such an effect. Moreover, the other her realm did not have the slightest advantage in front of Chen Hao. This was the reason why she thought that she would not be worse than Chen Hao when she learned that Chen Hao had stepped into the embodiment realm a month ago. And now, it seemed that in terms of aura, she was several times stronger than Chen Hao. Of course, she was a little proud. Let's talk about it at my peak first. Let's go. Chen Hao looked at many disciples who were full of envy and admiration, smiled slightly, waved his hand and released a stream of energy. He gently dragged it and took the lead to turn into a wisp of breeze. Chen Shui immediately followed. Why are you looking for me? After directly entering the palace, Chen Hao stared at Chen Shui and asked aloud. Chen Shui glared at Chen Hao, but did not answer immediately. She walked to the main seat in the hall and leisurely sat on the wide chair. After lazily leaning on it, she said indifferently, Can't I come if there's nothing, brother? Now that your cultivation is high, you have more confidence in speaking? But you've indeed advanced quite quickly. Do you have any secret method? Your junior brother Leng Yihan is the same as you. Secret. This is the complete collection of heaven and earth spiritual items that you want. Have you cultivated the heaven-level superior grade lost art? It's time to impart it to me, Qin Shui said. I've been busy consolidating my realm during this time and haven't had time to cultivate it. Do you want to cultivate it first? Chen Hao took the jade slip from Qin Shui and said, when he obtained the heaven-level superior grade lost art, sky-shattering sword technique, in the miniature grotto heaven in Sky City, the two agreed that Chen Hao would cultivate it first and then impart it to Qin Shui. But Chen Hao hadn't even touched it after such a long time. He did not expect Qin Shui to still be concerned about it. That's not necessary. I'm leaving. Just for this, you came specially? Take it and cultivate it. In fact, it doesn't matter if I want it or not. The reason why I didn't cultivate it is because I'm not very interested. Chen Hao was a little speechless. He took out the jade slip of the sky-shattering sword technique and threw it to Qin Shui. I'll send you out. Okay then. Qin Shui took the jade slip. I'm just passing by. You don't have to send me out. I see that your realm is not stable yet, so I don't dare to delay your cultivation. Goodbye. Why is it so strange? After watching Qin Shui leave, Chen Hao frowned slightly and thought to himself. She came in a hurry and left in a hurry. It was only 10 minutes from start to finish. She gave him a jade slip and took away a jade slip. How trivial was this? Could it be that she just came to see him? Shaking his head, Chen Hao was too lazy to think about it. However, what Chen Hao did not know was that in the storage space in the depths of his mind, the aura of the mysterious existence and the treasure-hunting sword spirit were quietly revolving around the so-called encyclopedia of heaven and earth spiritual objects that Chen Hao had brought. It was not studying the information of heaven and earth spiritual objects recorded in it, but a faint aura on the jade slip that even Chen Hao could not detect. Very quickly, the mysterious existence understood Qin Shui's intentions. However, it did not warn Chen Hao. In its opinion, this was a good thing. Half a month later, Chen Hao had completely consolidated his realm. Late at night, a cool breeze drifted out of the Jiaxing sect. Apart from informing Dongfang Ting and the sect master, Chen Hao did not inform anyone else. He quietly left the Jiaxing sect with a trace of anticipation and excitement. Phew! Is this Emerald Smoke City? Stepping out of the entrance of the incomparably huge teleportation station, Chen Hao sensed the vast and majestic aura of the city. Looking at the cultivators who were filled with various auras coming and going, his handsome face flashed with excitement as he thought to himself. In particular, the cultivators with different auras made Chen Hao sigh with amazement. Among them, there were not many cultivators, that is, the aura of the immortal Tao, among them. Instead, the aura of the fiendish demons occupied the majority. This was an absolutely impossible situation in the cultivation world of the Eastern continent. This was because no cultivator of the demon Tao or the demon Tao would dare to appear so brazenly in a city. But now, the Emerald Smoke City that Chen Hao spoke of was a city where immortals, demons, and demons coexisted. Little brother, is this your first time stepping out of the cultivation world? Just as Chen Hao was standing at the entrance and sighing, a cultivator who had just walked out of the teleportation station revealed a look of surprise after seeing Chen Hao. Immediately, he walked to Chen Hao's side, smiled, and cupped his fists. Chen Hao looked at the person who took the initiative to approach him, smiled, and cupped his fists. Little brother, you have such a cultivation at such a young age. I think you must be an outstanding figure among the disciples of the immortal Tao. It is said that a once-in-a-thousand-years genius has appeared in the cultivation world of the Eastern continent. Little brother, looking at your attire, could you be that Chen Hao, brother Chen? Hearing the middle-aged cultivator's words, Chen Hao frowned slightly. Little brother, there is no need to worry. I am one of the managers of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, Lei Long. I often travel between the various continents. That is why I have such a guess. I hope Brother Chen does not blame me. The middle-aged man smiled. Although Chen Hao did not answer, his words already confirmed that the youth in front of him was the famous Chen Hao in the cultivation world of the Eastern continent. It doesn't matter, Chen Hao said with a smile. He did not doubt this person's identity. From the information he had gathered, he already had some understanding of Emerald Smoke City. He was not worried that the person in front of him would harm him. He was just surprised that the other party had seen through his identity at a glance. When I first came to Emerald Smoke City, I was much more shocked than you. This city is jointly controlled by the Immortal Tao, the Yao Dao, and the Devil Tao. As long as the forces of the three realms are in the city, no one dares to have any conflicts. Brother Chen, you can rest assured. You have come at the right time. In 3 days, the largest chamber of commerce in Emerald Smoke City, the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, will hold the largest annual auction. Brother Chen, since it is your first time coming out, you can go and take a look. I guarantee that you will not be disappointed. However, with Brother Chen's current strength, it is best that you do not leave the city. If you want to gain experience, you should go directly to the area controlled by the Immortal Tao. Many thanks for the reminder, Chen Hao said. Then I will take my leave. If you need help with anything, don't hesitate to find me at the Heavenly Armament Pavilion branch in Emerald Smoke City. Brother Chen, as long as you say your name, you will be unimpeded in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. The middle-aged man called Lei Long cupped his fists and quickly left. The corners of Chen Hao's mouth curled up slightly as he slowly walked into the city. He thought to himself, I didn't expect my reputation to be so great already. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Most of the people in Emerald Smoke City are at the Incarnation Realm, and there are many at the Primordial Spirit Realm as well. However, I am afraid that there are not many at the Incarnation Realm who would dare to gain experience outside Emerald Smoke City. According to the information, the outside of Emerald Smoke City was a barren mountain range filled with countless terrifying demon beasts. Although it was a treasured place for Incarnation Realm experts to gain experience, there were not many at the Incarnation Realm who dared to go there to gain experience. This was an area that was governed by 3 rules, which could also be said to be ungoverned by 3 rules. The Immortal Tao, the Devil Tao, and the Yao Dao coexisted. Although this place wasn't as ruthless as it was in the other regions, it was certain that there would be hostility. This meant that it was not as simple as killing people and seizing treasures here. Even if there were no treasures, they would be killed because of their position. Not long after Chen Hao walked into the bustling streets of the city, a blue dress stepped out of the teleportation array. Under the translucent black veil, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly with a touch of pride. Her beautiful eyes shone with a trace of anticipation and excitement. Just like when Chen Hao first came in, she looked at this city that could only be described as magical. Information was information. After seeing it for real, it would indeed surprise anyone. I can't take the initiative to find him. I have to let him find me. Chen Shui's powerful soul sensed the faint fluctuation and thought to herself. Second update. Third update may be very late. I suggest that you don't wait. Chapter 348. Chen Shui had just merged into the world and disappeared at the entrance of the teleportation hall when a figure wearing a black bamboo hat and concealing his aura appeared in the teleportation array. Leng Yihan didn't wait for him, but he did. I didn't expect that girl to follow him. That girl should be Chen Shui, who was with him in the Sky City, right? This is a good thing. If the news gets out, the effect will definitely be better. The person wearing the bamboo hat was an expert secretly sent by the Yuan Gate sect master. With his strength, he could naturally kill Chen Hao, but he could not and did not dare to. If the Wuji Immortal Palace really wanted to investigate something, there was nothing they could not find out. It was useless no matter how secretive his identity was. Therefore, the Yuan Gate sect master could only kill with a borrowed knife. In this way, even if the Wuji Immortal Palace knew that he had released the news, they would not be able to punish him. This was because the principle of the Wuji Immortal Palace's guardian order was only that experts above the primordial soul realm could not take action. There were no other restrictions. Otherwise, wouldn't this genius be a caged bird? Emerald Smoke City was the only exit out of the Eastern Continent's cultivation world. Unless it was a void-tearing expert in the creation realm, the first stop out of the Eastern Continent's cultivation world would definitely be Emerald Smoke City. It was also the only exit between the Southern Sea Islands and the Western Continent's cultivation world. In fact, before Chen Hao obtained the high-level information of the sect, He only knew that the eastern continent was under the control of the immortal Tao. Nearly 4/5 of the area was under the control of the demon Tao and the devil Tao. The black bamboo hat turned into a stream of light and went quickly to the southern sea islands and the western continent's guilds stationed in Emerald Smoke City. As long as the news spread to these two guilds, he believed that there would be people who would be very tempted. Moreover, he could sell it at a good price. He was sure of this. "Hello, sir. Is there anything I can help you with?" The black bamboo hat soon arrived at the mission reception hall of the Southern Sea Islands Immortal Tao Alliance. "I have information to sell," the black bamboo hat said in a low voice. "Okay, please follow me," the receptionist said respectfully. Then, she went to the information pavilion with the black bamboo hat. However, a moment later, the black bamboo hat was covered in dust, but there was a trace of excitement in his eyes as he quickly walked out of the hall. The reason was very simple. When he said that this news was related to the archipelago's Coiling Dragon Valley, Celestial Arcanum sect, and the other 5 major sects, they directly asked if it was the news of Chen Hao and Chen Shui from the eastern continent's cultivation world arriving in Chui Yen City. If so, you can leave now. Although he didn't make any money, he realized that Chen Hao and Chen Shui had killed the top geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands. They were definitely top geniuses. Moreover, it had only been a short while, and they had already received the news. It was obvious that the people of the Southern Sea Islands had been paying attention to the movements of the eastern continent. He must have known about Chen Hao long ago. They had been waiting for a long time. As expected, he received the same treatment when he arrived at the Immortal Tao Alliance of the Western Continent. All the inns, all the restaurants, all the city gates, especially the locations of the 2 teleportation stations, keep an eye on them. Once the location is confirmed and the 2 of them meet up, we can carry out the plan. Yes. No matter how strong their concealment skills are, they won't be able to escape the detection of my God's eye. That chick has advanced to the peak of the late stage of the incarnation stage and caught up with my realm. I'll definitely benefit a lot from her. That kid is only at the early stage of the incarnation stage. He hasn't even reached the peak. However, I can't underestimate him. In a high-rise room of a towering palace, a figure stood in front of the window after giving an order. He looked down at the bustling Chui Yen city with a lustful expression as he muttered to himself. This person was Yi Shanshui, the commander of the Southern Sea Islands in the Sky City. Yu Qingfeng was killed by Chen Hao right under his nose, which was undoubtedly a great humiliation to him. Although the sect would not blame him for the death of a genius, it was still a stain on his record. Moreover, the most important thing was that he had never let go of the woman he fancied. In addition, the super geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands' 5 major 9th-grade sects had died in the hands of Chen Hao and Chen Shui, which undoubtedly infuriated the 5 major 9th-grade sections. How could they let such a person go? Therefore, they had been investigating the news of Chen Hao in the eastern mainland. In particular, when they found out that Chen Hao had won first place in the intersect competition and defeated Chu Qingtian, who was at the peak of the Avatar stage, while he was at the peak of the nascent soul stage, they were even more determined to kill Chen Hao. The eastern mainland's immortal Tao was at the bottom, and it was adjacent to the Southern Sea Islands. If a genius like Chen Hao rose to power and reversed the destiny of the eastern mainland, wouldn't the Southern Sea Islands suffer? Originally, there had been no news of Chen Hao, but he did not expect that Chen Shui would appear with Chen Hao. Of course, this made Yi Shanshui even more excited. This time, Yi Shanshui was not the only one who came. There were more than 30 young geniuses at the peak of the late stage of the incarnation stage and half-step primordial soul stage from the 5 major 9th-grade sections. He was the overall person in charge. In order to kill Chen Hao, the Coiling Dragon Valley's Valley Master had specially provided Yi Shanshui with the high-grade Earth-grade spirit treasure Heavenly Eye. As long as one was not a cultivator at the creation stage, no matter how good one's concealment skills were, they could not escape his senses. Chen Hao walked leisurely on the streets. He was not in a hurry, and he did not think of immediately looking for a training destination. Tension and relaxation were the Tao of civil and martial arts. At this moment, he had gone through crazy closed-door cultivation and had stabilized his current realm. It was not a good thing to advance too quickly. There was no need to continue wasting the almost empty primordial crystal stones. In the storage space, if Yuan Tairan had not generously rewarded him with 100,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones before he left, he would have been so poor that he only had the spirit spring left. In the past, he felt that the spirit spring was a lot, but now he felt that it was too little. If he really used it at full power, it would be used up in a few months. This kind of thing could only be encountered and not sought. It was not worth it to completely temper it with primordial crystal stones. As for the spirit pills, spirit herbs, and other things he had obtained, including the empty spirit grass, he left them to Dongfang Ting and asked her to distribute them to Yang Fan and the other two, as well as Mo Yui and Dongfang Jun, who were still in the Seven Stars Grotto heaven. As long as it was something he could do, he would not be stingy with his own people. Moreover, those things were really useless to him. It could be said that he had emptied his inventory. Of course, Chen Hao dared to give them all to Dongfang Ting before Yuan Tairan generously gave him 100,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. He had something to rely on, and that was the immortal fruit tree. The immortal fruit tree was nourished in the spirit spring. In addition to the special method of the mysterious existence, it had now borne an immortal fruit in the short span of a year. What was even more amazing was that not only did it not consume the spirit chi in the spirit spring, it could also constantly absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth to nourish the spirit spring. This made the energy contained in the spirit spring thicker and purer. The immortal fruit can increase one's lifespan by 3 years, but it has no meaning to me. Since I managed to make it to this auction, I can just sell it. Who knows, I might be able to sell it for a good price. Chen Hao thought to himself as he looked at the various shops and cultivators around him. He did not mind that he had attracted the attention of others. Moreover, he did not conceal his aura at all. There was no other way. He was poor, so he wanted to make some money. He could not do things like killing and robbing, but he liked it when people came to him. Of course, the premise was that he did not attract the attention of a poor female hooligan. Although he did not care much, Chen Hao knew that he seemed to be getting more and more handsome and manly in this life. This was definitely not a halo effect, but purely in terms of temperament and appearance. In this unfamiliar Emerald Smoke City, not everyone could recognize him like Lei Long in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. What kind of halo effect could there be? However, it was very obvious that he attracted attention, especially to women. The Immortal Dao, Demon Dao, and Demon Dao were no exception. Moreover, although Chen Hao had a little advantage in terms of age and realm, it was not very obvious. It was not to the point that people would be surprised. The women of the Demon Dao and Demon Dao look much more coquettish and charming than the women of the Immortal Dao. This temperament is probably caused by the cultivation method, right? Itoda, what do you think? In the end, Chen Hao could not bear the loneliness of being alone. A wisp of his mind merged into his mind and took the initiative to speak. During this period of time, Chen Hao had seriously warned that no one could startle him in his mind. Unless it was a critical time or when he did not take the initiative, no one could appear. He did not want to be influenced by anyone. Cough cough. Master, are you interested? Just asking. Oh, in fact, there is no difference between the Demon Dao, and Immortal Dao. It's just that the cultivation method you cultivate is indeed mostly evil. But the orthodox Demon Dao and Demon Dao are not. However, the orthodox Demon Dao's advancement speed is slow and not popular. These women look coquettish and charming, naturally the aura produced by the unorthodox cultivation method they cultivate. This place is really magical. Just as Chen Hao was strolling leisurely, a wisp of cool breeze quietly floated from the other side of the street to a few thousand meters in front of him. It went to a slightly hidden corner, and when it was sure that no one was paying attention, it revealed itself. However, the aura around her was still concealed by the heart mantra of merging with all things in the world, so that no one could see the depth of her aura. Of course, even if Chen Hao released his soul perception here at this moment, he would not be able to sense her aura. Soon after, his figure flashed and he arrived on the busy street. He walked at a speed that was even slower than Chen Hao. He should be able to discover me like this. Chen Shui's expression carried a trace of pride, and she thought to herself, I really don't know if he has no experience or if he is doing it on purpose. He actually did not hide his aura at all. Does he really think that the Guardian Order is omnipotent? Fortunately, I followed him. Otherwise, I really don't know how long he can live. Why is he walking so slowly? And he keeps staring at women. This can't be his true side, right? The third update is finally completed. No one is waiting, right? If there is, then it's too tragic. 2 o'clock. Chapter 349. Chen Shui moved with light steps while sensing the aura behind her. Slow, so slow that Chen Shui had no choice but to move forward like a snail. Amidst the endless stream of people, she, who was dressed in a blue dress and had a graceful figure, was already an eye-catching sight. Her tortoise-like speed directly caused the entire crowd on the street to slow down along with her. What a beautiful woman! Phew! Everyone says that immortal Dao women are pure and elegant. I didn't believe it at first, but now I have to believe it. Although this girl is wearing a veil, her beauty is enough to cause the downfall of a nation. Such a stunning beauty is truly rare. Someone in the crowd said, This aura is very young. She's probably only in her early 20s and has already reached the peak of the late stage of the incarnation realm. Looks like she must be an outstanding figure of the younger generation in the Immortal Dao region who obtained the Guardian Token. Why haven't I heard of her before? The only person who obtained the Guardian Token in the Southern Sea Islands and the Western Continent was Jian Wufei of the Western Continent. Her realm is the same, but her appearance and temperament are too different from the rumors. The Eastern Continent only has Xia Yuyu, but she was accepted as a disciple of the limitless Immortal Palace. Could it be that this girl came from another region? Not likely. Our Emerald Smoke City is only the hub city of the Southern Sea Islands, the Western Continent, and the Eastern Continent. In the entire Boundless Continent, it is the worst region. How could Immortal Dao disciples from other regions come here to train? There's no challenge at all. Quick, quick. Although the crowd's discussion was very low, there was nothing taboo. How could Chen Shui not hear it? It had to be said that there was nothing wrong with being a woman. There was nothing wrong with being a beautiful woman. There was nothing wrong with being extremely talented and beautiful. But strolling at tortoise-like speed in a crowded street was too outrageous. Because of Chen Shui, the entire street had become congested beyond recognition. This made Chen Shui quite depressed. Especially when she sensed that Chen Hao's speed had become even slower than hers, she was even more depressed. Could it be that she had to stop herself? What's going on in front? Chen Hao looked at the dense crowd in front of him. It seemed to be seriously congested. He felt slightly strange. His mind, which hadn't been activated before, immediately extended over curiously. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception was like tentacles that quickly spread forward. Although his line of sight was completely blocked by the crowd, the buzzing sounds of discussion and the appearance of the cultivators could not be hidden from Chen Hao's soul perception. It was like a clear image that was more vivid than the naked eye. Beauty. What kind of beauty has the power to paralyze the entire street? As they approached, Chen Hao caught the crowd's discussion and thought in surprise. However, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Why is she here? Chen Hao. Chen Shui, who had been waiting impatiently for a long time, didn't dare to hesitate when she sensed the familiar aura sweeping past her body. He immediately locked onto Chen Hao and pretended to be surprised. Why you here? This? As she spoke, Chen Shui was like an ant on a hot pan, and she directly blended into everything in the world. A strand of faint and imperceptible breeze blew past, and she suddenly disappeared before everyone's eyes. Why am I here? Of course I'm here to gain experience. But why are you here? Chen Hao was slightly speechless as he stared at Chen Shui who'd appeared by his side, and then he directly grabbed her little hand and fused into everything in the world before speaking via voice transmission. At the same time, he swiftly left this place of trouble. Of course I'm here to gain experience. I didn't expect such a coincidence. You don't even have a guardian order. Why you here? It's fine if you're here, but why are you dressed up like this? It's fine if you're dressed like this, but you're as slow as a snail. Aren't you trying to please the crowd? What does it have to do with me? I'm just curious. Who knew there would be so many boring people in this strange city? Besides, who said that I can't come out to gain experience without a guardian order? With my current strength, what's the point of staying in the Eastern continent? You're talking about me, but what about you? You walk as slow as a tortoise, and you don't restrain yourself at all. Chen Shui suddenly shut up halfway. Brother, this city is really magical. Look, there are so many demon cultivators and demon cultivators. Yeah, it's not just magical, it's even more strange. You clearly didn't detect my aura, so how were you able to lock onto my position? If I'm not wrong, it ought to be the jade slip that you came all the way over just to give me, right? Chen Hao held Chen Shui's little hand tightly as he turned around and stared at Chen Shui as he transmitted his voice. After he saw Chen Shui's astonished and frowning expression, he continued. Is there any need to make it so tiring? What's our relationship? Brother and sister? Just say it. Since you've said it, how could I not agree? It's not a big deal. Chen Shui utterly never imagined that after she revealed a little in her complacency, not only did Chen Hao know that she'd followed him here in such an instant, he'd even found the source of it. This caused her to be extremely embarrassed, and she more or less turned her face to the side with slight embarrassment to avoid Chen Hao's direct gaze. But what Chen Hao said after caused Chen Shui to turn around and glare at Chen Hao instead, and she said, "We're brother and sister." You don't look like an older sister? But the two of them were in the same state where they'd merged with everything in the world, and they didn't give in to each other as they argued for an entire 10 minutes without a conclusion. In the end, it was Chen Hao's manly demeanor that chose to avoid Chen Shui's rudeness before returning to normal. Needless to say, because of the special brother and sister relationship, the two of them didn't have any psychological barriers when they were together. And Chen Hao didn't blame Chen Shui for following him without permission in the slightest. In fact, it was just as Chen Hao had said, if Chen Shui spoke to him directly, he would absolutely not refuse. Firstly, Chen Shui's cultivation realm and combat strength weren't inferior to his. When the two of them trained together, neither of them would hold the other back. Secondly, after experiencing the training in the ancient Black Wind Cave and the city in the sky, Chen Hao liked the feeling of training together with Chen Shui very much. It was a feeling of being unrestrained. Moreover, he wasn't tempted by the feelings between men and women. This wasn't something that Xia Yuyu, Helian Wuzi, and Tan Tai Lian could compare to. It couldn't be helped. If Chen Shui was replaced by any of the three women, Chen Hao was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself when a man and woman trained together alone. Not to mention, if the other party took the initiative, Chen Hao would fall even more, but Chen Shui wouldn't. Welcome to the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. Two eye-catching figures appeared at the entrance of the reception hall of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. Beautiful female attendants stood in 2 rows on either side of the entrance. After bowing at the same time, one of the female attendants approached Chen Hao and Chen Shui and said warmly and politely, "Sir, miss, do you need help?" "I have something to auction," Chen Hao said. "All right, this way please." The Yao Dao, the Devil Dao, and the Immortal Dao. Could this Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce be an alliance of the 3 forces? Chen Shui transmitted her voice as the two followed the female attendant into the hall. It should be. Since Emerald Smoke City is jointly governed by the 3 forces, then this is the largest chamber of commerce. Naturally, everyone wants a share of the profits. This Emerald Smoke City is only a small city in the region where the forces of the boundless world are mixed. However, even the attendants of this Chamber of Commerce are Golden Core Realm and Nascent Soul Realm experts. Truly amazing. May I know what the two of you want to auction? As they spoke, the two were brought to a reception window. The old man sitting in the cabinet glanced at Chen Hao and Chen Shui with bright eyes and spoke with a trace of a smile. Although he wasn't cold, he obviously wasn't very enthusiastic either. Just based on the two's age and cultivation, it was impossible for them to have anything good. Therefore, without waiting for Chen Hao to reply, he continued, "I think the two of you should know that our Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce's largest annual auction will be held in 3 days. If it isn't a rare and precious item, we can only postpone it to the normal auction in 10 days. I'll explain it to the two of you first. Is something that can increase one's lifespan considered rare and precious? Chen Hao smiled and stared at the old man. I don't want to wait for 10 days. It also depends on what it is. For example, the more common soul-strengthening grass and soul-replenishing lotus. Although they are expensive, if they are auctioned, they won't increase the income by much. What we care about this auction is its rarity and preciousness. Only such items can bring out the value of the auction. Little brother, tell us what it is, the old man said with a smile. The soul-strengthening grass and soul-replenishing lotus could both increase one's lifespan by 1 year. However, in the cultivation world, compared to other items that could increase one's lifespan, they were more common and were more plentiful. There wasn't a shortage of them. The reason was that once a spirit medicine that could increase one's lifespan was consumed once, it would no longer have any effect. However, even so, the price was still quite high. If it was auctioned, it wouldn't increase the price by much. Basically, it was to the point where the price was clearly marked and didn't have much auction value. Pan fruit. Pan fruit? When the old man heard Chen Hao's words, he was stunned. Little brother, are you sure? Although the pan fruit can only increase one's lifespan by 3 years, it is very rare. Chen Hao ignored the old man's surprise and took out the jade box that he had prepared earlier. The old man couldn't wait to open the jade box gently. Suddenly, a faint, refreshing fruit fragrance drifted out. After the old man took a deep breath, he hurriedly closed the jade box. He looked at Chen Hao in surprise and said, Little brother, your pan fruit, is there a problem? If it's not possible, I will take it to another auction. No problem. Don't misunderstand. Little brother, let's talk inside. The old man said and waved his hand to open the door next to the window. There was a touch of excitement on his face, and he became unusually enthusiastic. He made an inviting gesture to Chen Hao and Chen Shui. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Isn't it just a pan fruit? Isn't this old man's attitude changed too much? Something at home delayed me. I only wrote 1 chapter, and I can only write it tomorrow afternoon. Sorry again. Chapter 350. After Chen Hao and Chen Shui stepped into the cabinet, the old man gestured for them to sit down before directly closing the window. Little brother, may I know your name? My surname is Chen. Chen Hao spoke indifferently. Little brother Chen, you and your Tao companion have already attained the incarnation stage at such a young age. Such natural talent and aptitude are peerless geniuses, and you basically don't need spirit medicines that increase your lifespan. Even if you need them in the future, this kind of immortal fruit can be completely ignored by the both of you. The old man had a smile on his face as he spoke respectfully. Chen Shui and Chen Hao frowned slightly when they heard the words Tao companion, but they didn't interrupt the old man's explanation. If you have something to say, just say it directly. There's no need to beat around the bush. Since I said I want to auction it, I naturally want to sell it. Chen Hao discerned the old man's implied meaning, yet he was puzzled in his heart, so he spoke directly. Old man, I'll be frank. The life essence of this immortal fruit is extremely pure and boundless, and it's in a rather active state. Obviously, it was plucked 2 hours ago at most. Otherwise, the life essence of the immortal fruit should be restrained and not revealed. So, what old man means is, can little brother give the immortal fruit tree to our Emerald Cloud Trade Association to auction? Old man can guarantee you that our Emerald Cloud Trade Association will absolutely be able to auction it for an extremely high price. Chen Hao frowned slightly as he never expected that this old man's vision would actually be so sharp. Merely by the aura of the immortal fruit, he was able to determine the time he plucked it and deduce that the immortal fruit tree was in his possession. This caused Chen Hao to be shocked, and after pondering for a moment he said in an indisputable tone, I'm sorry, this immortal fruit was entrusted by someone to be auctioned. This immortal fruit will be auctioned 3 days from now. If little brother wants to auction it in the future, feel free to come look for the old man. This is the token number. The old man will deal with the auction proceeds according to the lowest commission of the trade association. At that time, Little brother only has to use the token to exchange for it. This is the pass for the auction. Both of you are welcome to attend at that time. This old fellow's eyesight is really sharp. He was able to determine the time of harvest just by relying on the aura of the immortal fruit. After stepping out of the old man's cabinet, the two of them walked directly out of the hall. Chen Hao transmitted his voice to Chen Shui. We're still lacking in experience. However, there was no need to worry. Large-scale auctions all had their own bottom line, and this kind of information would never be leaked. Besides, although the immortal fruit tree is rare, it's not precious enough for the auction house to go against their principles. Chen Shui said, "Let's take a walk in the Chamber of Commerce." According to the records, the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce's items are clearly priced at a price several times higher than the chambers of commerce of the Eastern continent. Many of the items auctioned in the Eastern continent are directly purchased here. I want to buy some phase that can temper my body. All right, I'll accompany you then. The two withdrew their auras slightly. Although one could see their cultivation realms, they appeared extremely ordinary in Emerald Smoke City. Among the cultivators who came and went, there were plenty of Incarnation Realm cultivators. Only Half-Step Essence Soul Realm and Essence Soul Realm cultivators were rare. Only such experts were qualified to be received. With Chen Hao and Chen Shui's cultivation realms, there was no one to receive them when they stepped into the treasure sale hall. The hall was so vast that one could not see the end of it. It was like a city. Clearly, it had been integrated with an extremely powerful space law. Mysterious and strange auras drifted in the air, suppressing everyone's perception to a radius of 1,000 feet. Beyond this distance, it was difficult to advance any further. Even though Chen Hao and Chen Shui's souls were extremely powerful, they could only barely reach 2,000 feet. Amazing! I'm afraid this is a grotto heaven condensed by a top expert above the creation realm. The moment the two of them entered the hall, they were shocked. Powerful pills, Dharma treasures, rare treasures, and jade slips of secret techniques were suspended in rows. There was a dazzling array of items. Countless cultivators were either walking or stopping, searching for the items they needed. Brother Chen, what a coincidence! Suddenly, a voice came from behind Chen Hao and Chen Shui. A middle-aged cultivator came to Chen Hao's side in a flash. He had a smile on his face as he clasped his fists and said. His gaze drifted past Chen Shui's face, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He said, "This should be Chen Shui, Miss Chen, right?" Brother Lei, you have good eyes." Chen Hao smiled and clasped his fists. He looked at Chen Shui and introduced, "This is the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's general manager, Lei Long, Brother Lei. We got to know each other when I first came here." Not bad, not bad. Brother Chen and Miss Chen Shui are really dragons and phoenixes among men. I think it's your first time here. If you don't mind, I'll show you around. I'm very familiar with this place. If you need anything, just tell me. I'll take care of it. There will be a minimum discount, Lei Long said. Then I'll have to trouble you, Brother Lei. Chen Hao did not stand on ceremony. With such a huge space and limited divine senses, if the two of them did not have a target, they might not find what they needed for several hours. The Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce is the largest chamber of commerce in the Eastern Continent, Western Continent, and Southern Sea Islands. It's not inferior to the large chambers of commerce in other regions. There were countless powerful spiritual tools, special spiritual medicines, spiritual pills, and secret cultivation methods for sale here. All of them were clearly marked for sale. Moreover, they are updated very quickly. There's a term for treasure hunting among our chambers of commerce. If you're lucky, you might find many good things. However, that's in the free trade zone, Lei Long said as he led the two of them around. Free trade zone? Yes, the sellers in the free trade zone are not from the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, but cultivators from all over the place. It's equivalent to renting space from the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. After paying the necessary commission, you can sell your things here. The commission is very low. It's not like auctioning items, where the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce receives a percentage of the proceeds from the auction. Therefore, after estimating the price of their treasures, Many people directly mark the price of their treasures and sell them here, so as to avoid the heartache after the auction. This is also the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce's greatest advantage. I see. That's not bad. Let's go to the free trade zone and take a look, Chen Hao said. Chen Hao immediately understood the key to treasure hunting after hearing Lei Long's words. This was because not all cultivators could accurately estimate the value of their own treasures. Of course, since most people did so, they would definitely obtain more than auctioning off their treasures and save time. However, there were definitely some cultivators who had misjudged the value of their treasures. That was why treasure hunting had appeared. After all, even the appraisers of the Great Chamber of Commerce did not necessarily know the true value of many ancient and mysterious items. Alright. It was impossible to fly in this enormous space. Although the three of them were fast, it still took them a full hour to arrive at the free trade zone. However, what surprised Chen Hao and Chen Shui was that the route Lei Long took them was actually winding back and forth, even repeating a few detours as if he was looking for something. Although Chen Shui was surprised, she did not pay it any mind. On the other hand, Chen Hao seemed to have vaguely guessed something. His deep black eyes, when the lightning dragon began to circle around, unnoticeably began to probe in all directions. Chen Hao's senses were restricted, but this space did not restrict his vision. Chen Hao's abnormal vision, which was several times better than a normal person's, became even more abnormal as his realm and cultivation base increased. Wherever his gaze passed, even in the midst of a bustling crowd, he could see through 3,000 feet and clearly count the number of eyelashes of any cultivator. Brother Chen, you and Miss Chen Shui have to be extra careful when you come out to train this time. Your appearances are really too eye-catching. It's very easy for someone to guess your identity. I heard that you too killed a few of the top geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands and Sky City, but you have to be careful. When the three of them stepped into the even more lively free trade zone, Lei Long transmitted his voice to Chen Hao. Thank you for the reminder, Brother Lei. Chen Hao's lips curled up slightly, revealing a smile as he replied. Three young people who had restrained their auras. Chen Hao did not recognize them. Originally, Chen Hao had not paid any attention to it. However, Lei Long's vigilance had caught Chen Hao's attention. Lei Long's words made Chen Hao guess the other party's identity and background. However, Chen Hao was not afraid at all. Instead, he was a little excited. How could the astute Chen Hao not have thought of such a situation? Even if Chen Hao did not think of it, Yuan Tairan, Xiaoling Feng, and the others could also think of it. Some people would not give up so easily. They could think of the methods that the Yuan Gate Master could think of. It was just that they could not stop it. Moreover, Chen Hao had thought of more than Yuan Tairan and Xiaoling Feng. This was because he knew very well what kind of people he and Chen Shui had killed in the Sky City. However, from the beginning, Chen Hao did not hide his traces and aura. The only thing he did not expect was that it would come so quickly. This guy led them around in circles. I'm afraid he has discovered us, right? When Chen Hao's group of three entered the free trade zone, one of the three people sent a voice transmission to the other two. They didn't seem to have anything to do with each other. Should be. It doesn't matter if he has discovered us. We can carry out the plan now. One of the young people said to the other two through voice transmission with a cold glint in his eyes. I'm afraid we can't? That middle-aged man is an essence soul expert. One of them said, What are you afraid of? If I'm not wrong, that middle-aged man should be from the Chamber of Commerce. We're just trying to rope them in. They definitely won't dare to participate in our matters. Don't worry. I just don't know if they have the guts to go out with us. Come over. Immediately, the three of them gathered in one place. They stepped into the free trade zone and no longer hid their traces. Instead, they swaggered toward Chen Hao and the other two. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 351. Brother Chen, it seems like we're in trouble. I'm very sorry, but the people of our Chamber of Commerce can't participate in any disputes. These three should be the top geniuses of the South Sea Archipelago. If I'm not wrong, they're targeting you. However, as long as Brother Chen doesn't let your emotions affect your decisions, it'll be fine. As long as you don't leave the city, they won't dare to act recklessly. Lei Long transmitted his voice to Chen Hao as the three of them swaggered over. Brother Lei, don't worry. Go about your business. Goodbye. What surprised Lei Long was that Chen Hao actually said this. After he finished speaking, he simply didn't wait for Lei Long's following words. With a hiss, he turned around and walked towards the three people who followed him. At the same time, Chen Shui suddenly disappeared in front of Lei Long. It was as if she had just disappeared into thin air. Even Lei Long, who was at the primordial soul realm, could not sense the slightest bit of her aura. Unlike Chen Shui, Chen Hao's aura was released. Even though there were layers upon layers of restrictions in the hall, the terrifying pressure instantly swept out for hundreds of feet. It can't be? Brother Lei Long was so frightened that he hurriedly transmitted his voice. Could it be that Chen Hao and Chen Shui wanted to directly attack here? At this moment, even the three top geniuses of the South Sea Archipelago were a little stunned by Chen Hao's sudden action. They were even frightened and stopped in their tracks. The top geniuses of the South Sea Archipelago only have this much courage? How dare you follow me? How many more people have you called over? As you wish. Chen Hao's cold and disdainful voice drifted within a radius of 1,000 feet, and his figure directly rushed out of the Chamber of Commerce. He did not conceal his aura. His entire person was like an incomparably sharp sword light, emitting a brilliant heavenly aura. Originally, Chen Hao and Chen Shui were quite eye-catching. This sudden change attracted the attention of countless cultivators in the surroundings. They did not understand what was going on. They all looked at the three youths who were stunned by Chen Hao's aura. The sound of discussion was immediately heard. How arrogant! I thought they were the top geniuses of the South Sea Archipelago. It seems like they aren't. That beautiful girl's concealment technique is amazing. These three are the top geniuses of the Southern Sea Archipelago? To be scared to this extent by two geniuses of the same age, it's really not as good as hearing about others. That young man's aura is too strong. Arrogant. How dare you? You're courting death. That's great. Let's go. The three of them only came to their senses when they heard the unbridled discussions of the experts. Their faces were burning hot and they were incomparably ashamed. Soon after, his expression became furious and ruthless as he spoke angrily. After saying that, the three of them also suddenly emitted a violent aura, and with a whoosh sound, they quickly left. Lei Long's face twitched. Even he did not expect that Chen Hao, who looked so calm and gentle, would actually behave so arrogantly and fiercely. Not to mention that the other three were shocked silly by Chen Hao's sudden performance. Even Lei Long couldn't react in time. After all, the other party had come looking for him, and it was obvious that he wanted to provoke Chen Hao so that he could lure Chen Hao out of the city for a duel. Moreover, the other party must have been prepared, and there were more than three of them. However, Chen Hao directly counterattacked. Chen Hao. Yes, it should be Chen Hao. The young man and the young girl just now must be Chen Hao, the champion of the Eastern Continent's intersect competition. The young girl might be the rogue cultivator Chen Hao, who was rumored to have trained together with him in the Sky City. It said that they killed several top geniuses of the 9th-rank sex in the Southern Sea Islands. The knowledgeable experts in the crowd guessed the identities of Chen Hao and Chen Shui. Most of the cultivators present were from the three forces. Although they did not go back often, they still paid attention to the major events in their respective regions. Then the other three must be the top geniuses of the 9th-rank sex in the Southern Sea Islands? Let's go and see. Damn, it's really a great honor for the Eastern Continent to have such powerful geniuses. Please don't screw up. Otherwise, it'll be very embarrassing. Is that possible? With the poor luck of the Eastern Continent, you want to fight with the Southern Sea Islands? You'll see how miserable that kid is in a moment. TSK, what's the big deal about the Immortal Tao? Any genius from the Yao Tao doesn't even need to be a top genius to kill them. Let's go and see if the top geniuses of the younger generation of the Immortal Tao have made any progress. The Yao Tao is nothing. They're so repulsive. Who knows how many years they've cultivated to take human form. Our demon Dao is the absolute number one. The battle between Chen Hao and the others had yet to start, but it had already caused the immortal Dao, Yao Dao, and demon Dao cultivators of the eastern, western, and southern sea islands to shoot their mouths off. This kind of thing happened frequently in Emerald Smoke City. Once there was a conflict, no one would reason with the other and only look at the other's position. Chen Hao and Chen Shui, who was hidden in all things, quickly left. The three from the southern sea islands viciously chased after them, and behind them were a large number of experts from the immortal Dao, Yao Dao, and demon Dao. There was no need to inquire about such a scene, nor did they need to listen to anyone's discussion. It was clear to the cultivators in the hall that there was going to be a good show to watch. The direct consequence of this situation was that it was like a rolling snowball, directly sweeping away all the cultivators that passed by. The number of cultivators surged out like a surging wave, and the number of people increased. It's not a good thing to be so arrogant, but isn't this more in line with his character? Lei Long frowned as he watched the crowd surge out. He also followed them out. Although he hadn't seen Chen Hao's experience with his own eyes, the Heavenly Armament Pavilion of the Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao region was very clear. Chen Hao was one of the important figures that the Heavenly Armament Pavilion wanted to make friends with. There were detailed records of Chen Hao's experience and deeds. Otherwise, when he saw Chen Hao, he wouldn't have guessed Chen Hao's identity at a glance. Thinking of the 18-year-old Chen Hao's rise in the Eastern Continent's cultivation world, although Lei Long felt that it was a pity for Chen Hao's arrogance and even felt that this kind of character would die sooner or later, at this moment, there was a faint trace of anticipation. Brother Yi, the Southern Gate. Chen Hao and Chen Shui are going to fight with us. Hurry! The three people from the southern sea islands chased after Chen Hao and quickly approached the Southern Gate. They also crushed their communication talismans. From the information they had obtained, Chen Hao's combat strength was definitely heaven-defying. Although they didn't want to admit it, they knew that it was impossible for the three of them to take down Chen Hao and Chen Shui, whose combat strength was unknown but who was at the peak of the late-stage incarnation realm. Especially now, Chen Shui's aura had completely disappeared from their senses. This was something that only Yi Shan and Shui could capture. Xiao Fei, the people from the southern sea islands are going to fight with him. Southern Gate, come and take a look. An old man who blended into the crowd and whose aura couldn't be detected even by primordial soul realm experts also crushed his communication talisman and sent out a message. A moment later, a figure who was sitting cross-legged in a cultivation room slowly opened her eyes after sensing the vibration of her communication talisman. The moment she opened her eyes, two terrifying sword intents flashed and disappeared. This figure was the champion of the Western Continent's Immortal Dao Sect Exchange Competition, Jian Wufei. She was someone who had shocked everyone in the Western Continent through this year's Intersect Exchange Competition. She had also created a miracle. The miracle of defeating someone stronger than her and fighting above her cultivation level was not inferior to the miracle that Chen Hao had created. She was also regarded by the Western Continent as a peerless genius of the Western Continent's Immortal Dao. I want to see how much his combat strength has increased. No matter what, I have to defeat him. I have to defeat him fair and square. I have to take back my providence and get rid of my inner demons. Boom. Following Jian Wufei's words, the aura of having the world in her hands suddenly erupted from her lithe and graceful body. The terrifying aura was many times stronger than when she had fought Chen Hao. I have already reached the peak of the mid-stage incarnation realm and cultivated the mountain river sword Dao to the peak of the 7th stage. My elemental intent has already formed the embryonic form of a sword soul. I can even kill an early-stage primordial soul realm expert. There is no reason why I can't defeat him. There is no reason. Jian Wufei's eyes shone with a cold light as she spoke in her heart. However, towards the end, even she became uncertain. This feeling made her expression turn grave. She knew that this was her inner demon. Before she truly defeated Chen Hao, this inner demon would continue to haunt her. Only by defeating Chen Hao fair and square would she be able to get rid of this inner demon. Jian Wufei transformed into a streak of light and quickly disappeared from the room. Good, good, good. Looks like we'll be able to complete the mission soon. This kid really doesn't know his place. He thinks that the super geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands are from the Eastern Continent. Cough cough, I'm also from the Eastern Continent. Damn it, it's best that they all die. I'll kill a few more before I die. I'll raise the prestige of the Eastern Continent's immortal Tao and return the providence that should have belonged to our origin sect. A figure wearing a black bamboo hat and concealing his aura quickly followed the increasing number of people toward the southern city gate. Will this really work? Chen Hao took the lead. Chen Shui, who had merged with all things in the world, followed him like a shadow as she transmitted her voice to Chen Hao. What are you afraid of? I'm so poor now. Since someone is giving me milk, how can I not accept it? The auction is in 3 days. I don't have time to dawdle with them. I'll kill as many as I can. If I can't, the Emerald Smoke City is just nearby. Can't I run? They obviously came prepared. Our Heart Sutra that has merged with all things in the world is not necessarily omnipotent, especially in battle. It doesn't matter. I don't think anyone can beat me unless they're in the primordial soul realm. My inflated self-confidence needs to be hammered. I hope that they won't be too weak. Chen Hao said arrogantly. The truth was just as Chen Hao said. He had been in seclusion for a long time and had reached the peak of the early immortal realm. Even he couldn't fully control how much his combat strength had increased. Only a true life and death battle could determine it. This was especially true for Chen Hao's body, which had become many times stronger than before. With just a thought, Chen Hao could feel an explosive power surging through him. This was the feeling of pure physical strength. It made him feel that even if it was a 10,000-foot tall mountain, he would be able to destroy it with a single punch. Second update. Wu Shan continues with the third update. It must be very late. Don't wait. Chapter 352. The huge Emerald Smoke City was incomparably vast. Under the restriction of the Space Restriction Order, although Chen Hao and Chen Shui's speed was astonishing, it still took them more than an hour to step out of the south gate of Emerald Smoke City. After a while, countless cultivators of the immortal, demon, and demon realms followed Chen Hao and Chen Shui out like a huge torrent. The 3 guys from the South Sea Islands were originally in the lead, but they gradually calmed down and deliberately slowed down their pace, waiting for the arrival of their companions. They were not worried that Chen Hao and Chen Shui would change their minds. With such a big movement, it was already difficult to get off the horse. For the sake of face and honor, they would never withdraw. Moreover, it was such a big movement that made the 3 of them a little conflicted, especially when they heard the discussion of the cultivators. It made them understand that there was no way to win with numbers, according to their plan. This was something he hadn't expected. What are you doing out here? After stepping out of the south gate, Chen Shui, who was dressed in a blue dress and had a graceful and exquisite figure, directly came out of the state of being integrated with all things in the world without discussing with Chen Hao. She stood side by side with Chen Hao. This made Chen Hao frown slightly and ask, "If you want to fight, let's fight together. Do you want me to shrink aside? I don't think there is anyone in the incarnation realm who can be my opponent." Under the black veil, Chen Shui's beautiful face shone with a trace of pride as she said, "You don't have a guardian token. Will there be a problem with such a high-profile appearance?" Chen Hao asked. In fact, Chen Hao's actions seemed impulsive and arrogant, but it was the best choice. It caused such a big sensation, not because Chen Hao deliberately wanted to be high-profile, but because he wanted to disrupt the other party's tempo. He wanted to force them to fight with him fair and square. Only in this way could the risk factor be minimized. No matter how confident Chen Hao was, he would not blindly put himself in danger. But Chen Shui was different. She did not have a guardian token of the immortal master, but if she made such a high-profile appearance, it was difficult to guarantee that she would be targeted by masters above the primordial soul realm. At that time, even he would be helpless. This was the main reason why Chen Hao didn't want to refine the guardian order back then. This was because Chen Hao knew that once he stepped into the incarnation realm, even a half-step incarnation realm top genius would not be his opponent. At the very least, this should be the case in the Southern Sea Islands, the Western Continent, and the Eastern Continent. Furthermore, the Guardian Order restricted Essence Soul Realm experts from attacking him. What was the point of that? Where could he find life and death battles and tempering? But in the end, he still managed to temper it. The reason was simple. Even if he didn't temper himself, the news of him obtaining the Immortal Reverent Protection Token would still be announced by the limitless Immortal Palace in the cultivation world. No matter what, he couldn't get rid of this identity. Since that was the case, there was no need to go against the information in the Guardian Token. I have my mother. She's much more useful than the Guardian Order. Chen Shui said to Chen Hao with a smile. What's more, I still have a Guardian Order. Of course, this sentence could not be said to Chen Hao. Is this the monstrous genius known as the Immortal Tao of the Eastern Continent that only appears once in 1,000 years? He's only at the early stage incarnation realm. He's not even as good as that little beauty. Don't underestimate him. When he won first place in the Eastern Continent Immortal Tao Sect Exchange competition, he was only at the peak of the late-stage nascent soul realm. The opponent he defeated was a top genius at the peak of the late-stage incarnation realm. With his current combat strength, I'm afraid even a half-step incarnation realm expert is no match for him. Especially talented people like us. Tisk hehe, what a handsome little brother. What an abundant blood chi. If I can collect his essence, I'll definitely be able to break through to the essence soul realm. It's a pity that he has such a beautiful woman by his side. I'm afraid it won't be easy to charm him. That's not necessarily true. This kid is young and vigorous. He might still be a virgin. That little beauty's aura is 100% still a virgin. If we attack both of them separately with our charm, we might be able to succeed. It's just that our combat strength is probably not as good as theirs. So, we can only dream about it. Don't even think about it. Chen Hao is still okay, but that Chen Shui doesn't have the Immortal Reverent Protection Token. Look at how many Essence Soul Realm experts are here. It won't even be your turn. Although the Immortal Reverent Protection Token was issued by the Immortal Tao, it was an agreement jointly made by the Immortal Tao, Demon Tao, and Demon Tao. The Demon Tao and Demon Tao similarly had the Demon Venerable and Demon Venerable protection tokens. Basically, no one dared to violate it. Otherwise, the world would truly be in chaos. More and more cultivators gathered. They stared at Chen Hao and Chen Shui, who stood side by side with solemn expressions and buzzed in discussion. Most of them were Incarnation Realm cultivators, but there were also many at the peak of the early stage Essence Soul Realm. There were very few at the mid-stage Essence Soul Realm, and even fewer at the late-stage Essence Soul Realm. Once a cultivator stepped into the Essence Soul Realm, the speed of their advancement would become extremely difficult. Not only did it require a huge amount of primordial crystal stones and other spiritual items of heaven and earth, but it was also filled with layers of mysteries. It was almost the limit of what most cultivators could comprehend. Many cultivators were stuck at the peak of the early-stage Essence Soul Realm, unable to step into the mid-stage Essence Soul Realm their entire lives. Not to mention the Creation Realm. This was also the reason why the sect masters of the 9th rank sects in the Immortal Tao were merely experts at the Creation Realm. Not long after, close to 30 figures with powerful auras gathered together. Yi Shanshui, who was only at the peak of the late-stage Incarnation Realm, had long lost his usual composure. His devilishly handsome face was filled with gloom and coldness. I didn't expect this kid to be so high-profile. Since that's the case, we'll trample him to death fair and square. Send your consciousness to me. With the help of God's eye, I guarantee that they won't be able to hide. Alright, this. In an instant, the other 20 or so disciples sent a wisp of their consciousness into Yi Shanshui's God's eye. Under Yi Shanshui's activation, the sensitivity of everyone's perception within a radius of 1,000 feet instantly increased by several times. This caused the nearby Essence Soul Realm experts who were hiding in the void to be unable to hide. Brother Yi, this God's eye is indeed a superior grade spiritual treasure. It's so magical. Later, let me take on that kid in the first round. All right. That kid's combat power is not to be underestimated. Since he dares to do this, he must have sufficient confidence. Don't worry. I'm a half step to the Essence Soul realm. Can't I deal with him? Without the advantage of concealment, I won't be able to do anything. Don't let your guard down. This time, no matter what, we must kill him. So, later on we just need to… Yi Shanshui instructed everyone through telepathy. Only a few of them frowned slightly at Yi Shanshui's words. However, Yi Shanshui was the leader of this mission and had the strongest combat power. They could only obey. However, in their hearts, they were a little disdainful of Yi Shanshui. It was just an early-stage incarnation realm and a late-stage incarnation realm. Was there a need to do this? They're here. So fucking slow. So they're waiting for people? 30 people. TSK, the immortal path of the Southern Sea Islands is known as the top of the 3 immortal paths. They're not as good as their reputation. They're already so scared of 2 people from the Eastern continent. Don't tell me they're going to win with numbers? Don't be sarcastic. Why don't the Eastern continent find more than 30 young geniuses to try? Boom, boom. As soon as Yi Shanshui and the others appeared, their auras skyrocketed rapidly. The surrounding cultivators immediately cleared a path for them. The 30 cultivators did not show any sign of carelessness. They immediately surrounded Chen Hao and Chen Shui in the middle. Kid, you've killed the top genius of the Coiling Dragon Valley, Yu Chengfeng. Today I, Yi Shanshui, will make sure you die a horrible death. How dare you kill the top genius of the Heavenly Fortune sect, the son of the patriarch, little Heavenly Fortune Hanji? You're simply courting death. You've killed the top genius of the Flying Sword Pavilion, Shangguan Yang. You must die. Yi Shanshui and the other 4 all had cold expressions on their faces, as if they were sworn enemies. Every time they said a name, the surrounding cultivators' minds would tremble, and their gazes towards Chen Hao and Chen Shui would have a trace of surprise. Even though they had heard about the incident in the Sky City, it was something that happened between the 3 forces. Not many people were clear about the details. They really did not expect that the people Chen Hao and Chen Shui killed in the Sky City were all outstanding figures of the 9th-rank sects of the South Sea Islands. This was equivalent to wiping out half of the South Sea Islands' younger generation's luck. How could they not be shocked? Even though the cultivators of the South Sea Islands had nothing to do with Chen Hao and Chen Shui, they were all worried for them at this moment. It was obvious that the situation would not end well no matter what. This was no longer as simple as a duel. Why are you talking nonsense? It's nothing more than finding an excuse for your shamelessness. Do you want a one-on-one battle or a shameless siege? Just bring it on. We'll take it all. Chen Hao's handsome face flashed with a trace of disdain as he said coldly and arrogantly. It was as if he did not take the other party seriously at all. However, his heart was extremely heavy. He had long thought that there would be more than 3 people on the other side, but he did not expect there to be 30 of them. Moreover, 6 of them were half a step to the primordial soul realm. The others were at least at the late stage of the incarnation realm. Moreover, their auras were not weak. Yi Shanshui, who was at the late stage of the incarnation realm, had a terrifying aura around him. This was under the premise that he did not reveal his bloodline aura. How dare you? Do you think the 2 of you are worthy of being besieged by us? You think too highly of yourself. I, Sima Xiangbei, will take you on first. Let's see how arrogant you are. Boom. Sima Xiangbei, who was half a step to the primordial soul realm, suddenly rushed to a distance of 3,000 feet away from Chen Hao and stood still. With a clang, he unsheathed his sword. So you want to take turns to fight? Let me do it. Just as Chen Hao was about to make his move, Chen Shui suddenly said, "Leave the first 15 to me. The rest are yours." Her cold voice was faint. However, the words that she said, coupled with her beautiful figure and appearance, and the sudden surge of her aura, shocked everyone. Chen Hao's lips curled into an arrogant smile as he looked at Chen Shui and said, "There's no need to be so detailed. When it's about time, just leave it to me. Don't tire yourself because it's not worth it for a bunch of trash." Especially when he sensed the aura that Chen Shui released at this moment, the worry in his heart faded away and he became extremely proud. I fell asleep while writing. I really could not take it anymore. After sleeping for 3 hours, I got up and continued writing. Finally, I finished. Chapter 353. That won't do. I'm not much richer than you, let's split it evenly. Chen Shui glared at Chen Hao with a hint of coquettishness in her expression. Cough cough. Then let's take turns depending on the situation. I'll let you go first this round. Chen Hao was slightly stunned by Chen Shui's words and coquettishness. He shrugged and looked at Chen Shui with anticipation. Could it be that this girl's strength was beyond his imagination? Then why did she persuade him just now? That's more like it. Chen Shui replied. If Chen Shui did not emit an aura that made many half-step to Incarnation Realm experts tremble, everyone would have thought that she and Chen Hao were flirting. The two of them were facing 30 top geniuses from the South Sea archipelago who were stronger than them in terms of cultivation level. They were talking and laughing as if they were nothing. This kind of naked contempt and confidence made the onlookers exclaim in surprise. At the same time, it also made Yi Shanshui and the others look gloomy and angry. Bitch, don't blame me for being ruthless. Go to hell. Wait. Just as Sima Xiangbei was about to attack, Chen Hao suddenly stopped him loudly. He did not even look at Sima Xiangbei and directly looked at Yi Shanshui provocatively. He said, Yi Shanshui, right? Since our battle has attracted so many experts from various forces, we have to draw a line, don't you think so? Draw a line? Do you still want to leave here alive today? That's all I need to say. Xiao Shui, let's begin. Chen Hao waved and said, boom. Sima Xiangbei, who could not wait, attacked violently. As one of the 6 half-step to primordial soul realm experts, his aura was instantly raised to the limit. His physical body, nascent soul, and mind were condensed to the extreme at this moment, and there was already a trace of primordial soul realm aura vaguely. With a stab of the sword, a pitch-black space crack appeared in the space of 1,000 feet, completely enveloping Chen Shui under his sword essence. He could sense that although Chen Shui was at the peak of the late stage of Incarnation Realm, her aura was slightly superior to his. The advantage of cultivation level was gone. Thus, even though he was furious, he did not dare to be careless. Chen Shui grunted coldly. Clang. The high-grade spirit artifact, Sky Splitter, was unsheathed. She drew her sword and attacked in one smooth motion. Her figure was graceful while her sword move was simple, fierce, and direct, and it was even filled with boundless profundities of space and lightning. Not bad. The pupils of Chen Hao, who stood proudly like a master, constricted slightly the instant he saw Chen Shui draw her sword, and he praised in his heart. It was obvious that Chen Shui was displaying the supreme sword technique that he had taught her, the solitary sword technique. Moreover, Chen Hao could clearly sense that Chen Shui's seemingly casual strike was perfectly aimed at the flaw in Sima Xiangnan's attack. Rumble. The moment the sword radiance collided, Sima Xiangbei's sword radiance, which seemed more powerful, was instantly shattered and swallowed by Chen Shui's sword. At the same time, Chen Shui, who was dressed in a blue dress, was like a ray of blue flowing light as she charged at Sima Xiangbei at lightning speed. The greatest advantage of the solitary sword technique could only be displayed in close combat. Chen Shui, who was not inferior to Sima Xiangbei in any aspect, would naturally choose to engage in close combat. How could Sima Xiangbei, who was half a step to the primordial soul realm, be afraid? Ding ding ding. Boom boom boom. In an instant, the figures of the two intertwined. Sword chi crisscrossed, and exquisite sword moves emerged one after another. Countless spectating experts cheered loudly, especially the cultivators from the immortal way of the East Mainland. Their cheers resonated through the clouds with obvious pride and excitement because Chen Shui had the absolute advantage. That was indeed the case. Even Chen Hao was a little impressed by Chen Shui's understanding of the solitary sword technique. Although there was still a large gap between him and Chen Shui, how long had Chen Shui been cultivating? It was already quite impressive for her to be able to comprehend it to such an extent. Of course, Chen Hao was also clearly aware that this was due to Chen Shui's powerful soul. Otherwise, in a battle of this level, even if the creator of the solitary sword technique was here, he would be utterly unable to display any might and would be killed by the attacks that were as fast as lightning. Without the restrictions of the arena, the battle between the two of them was unrestrained and unrestrained. In the blink of an eye, they were thousands of feet away. The cultivators who had surrounded the city within a radius of 10 miles moved along with the two of them. The more Chen Hao watched, the more relaxed he became. Others only knew that Leng Yihan had comprehended the legendary destruction sword principle, but Chen Hao knew that Chen Shui had inherited the destruction sword principle. As for what realm she was at least on par with Leng Yihan. Once she displayed it, how powerful would it be? 5 minutes later, Chen Shui was closing in. The more Sima Xiangbei fought, the more terrified he became. At this moment, not only was he completely suppressed by Chen Shui, but he could not get rid of Chen Shui at all. He did not even have the slightest chance to unleash his ultimate move. If this continued, he would definitely be killed by Chen Shui's sword in less than 2 minutes. At this moment, he finally understood why Yi Shanshui, who had the highest combat strength, was so cautious. "Brother Yi, I'm afraid Sima Xiangbei can't hold on any longer. I didn't expect Chen Shui's combat strength to be so high, especially her sword technique. This can't go on. What can we do? In front of so many people, are we going to rush in together? Secretly prepare, unleash your ultimate move, catch her off guard, and kill her. At this point, we can only give up on this woman." Yi Shanshui transmitted his voice with a gloomy expression. This is an order. As long as you kill her, no one will say anything. If we fight her fair and square, who knows how many of us will die. If you don't want to die, hurry up. He can't hold on any longer. All right. Just as Chen Shui completely suppressed her opponent to the point that he could not retaliate and could only defend, Chen Shui knew that the time had come. Buzz. The 6th level of the chaotic lightning sword was completed in an instant with the help of the superior grade spirit weapon, the sky-shattering sword. "Ah, it's my turn. Go to hell." Just as Sima Xiangbei let out a frightening cry, a loud shout accompanied by an extremely frightening pressure suddenly came from behind Chen Shui and swiftly attacked. Under the cover of Yi Shanshui and the others, the second half-step primordial soul expert directly unleashed his strongest ultimate move for a sneak attack. It was as though he had torn through the void at an unimaginable speed. "Little Shui, this is my opponent. Just do what you need to do." Just as Chen Shui sensed the fatal threat from behind and was about to abandon Sima Xiangnan and turn around, Chen Hao's voice rang out. Cold, arrogant, and calm, as though he had long known that the other party was going to launch a sneak attack. However, Chen Hao's figure was 10,000 feet away, and he had just leaped into the air. Could he make it in time? In that instant, although Chen Shui had judged that Chen Hao could not make it in time, she chose to believe him without any reason. She believed that Chen Hao had completely placed his back, which meant that his life was in Chen Hao's hands. Ah! Sima Xiangnan let out a shrill cry. His eyes were filled with fear as he watched Chen Shui's sword radiance, which contained the terrifying mysteries of space and lightning, engulfed him. Then he lost consciousness. At the same time, just as the countless experts who were watching the scene exclaimed in shock, an extremely sharp sword radiance suddenly appeared behind Chen Shui. It appeared out of nowhere and without any warning, it slashed toward the half-step primordial soul expert who had launched a sneak attack at an even more terrifying speed. Kaboom! The moment there was a loud explosion, the sword radiance shattered. The expert who had launched the sneak attack retreated quickly. His originally sinister and smug expression was now filled with shock. Even now, he could not figure out how Chen Hao had managed to do it. Furthermore, the sword radiance that seemed to have been hidden in the void had actually blocked his ultimate move. Not only that, it had even forced him to retreat. How could this be? The countless onlookers widened their eyes in shock. They could not understand how Chen Hao had managed to do it. Only an extremely small number of primordial soul experts could tell what was going on. All of them were shocked. What a strong control of his inner yuan. No, it's definitely not as simple as the control of his inner yuan. This requires an even stronger concealment of his aura. How did he manage to do it? Even this old man couldn't see any clues. The primordial soul expert who could tell what was going on thought in shock. At the same time, a figure who had merged with the aura of the mountains and rivers had a look of shock in his eyes. He muttered to himself, "How can he be so strong?" Die. While everyone was still immersed in a daze, Chen Hao's clear and cold voice sounded out. His voice was swift like a bolt of lightning, and he'd already appeared between Chen Shui and the person who launched the sneak attack in the blink of an eye. Accompanied by a voice that was like the urging of the king of hell, Chen Hao simply stabbed out with his sword. The void was directly torn apart. A ray of light that was supposed to be emitting a seven-colored light was wrapped in a crack in the void. There was no strong aura being released. There was only condensation and speed. Incomparably condensation and terrifying speed. The sneak attacker wanted to scream, and fight for his life. However, his consciousness only lingered at the last moment. Before he could do anything, he became a corpse with a hole in his soul dwelling between his eyebrows. Everything was within his expectations, yet it was also beyond his expectations. What was expected was that everyone knew that the 30 top geniuses of the South Sea Archipelago would definitely not watch Sima Xiangbei die in the hands of Chen Shui. What was unexpected was that a half-step primordial soul expert had actually launched a sneak attack in front of everyone. What was even more unexpected was that Chen Hao had actually killed him in an instant. It was too fast, too sudden, and too stunning. Everyone could not react in time. Kill him! Kill him! No one was not frightened. Including Yi Shanshui, everyone was completely shocked by Chen Hao. At this moment, how could he still dare to care about his dignity and face? The shocking combat power that Chen Hao had displayed was completely beyond their imagination. It was not something that any one of them could fight against alone. If they went up one by one, what kind of ending would they face? They were all killed by Chen Hao one by one as if they were vegetables. Chapter 354. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the remaining 28 people no longer cared about their dignity and honor. If the Southern Sea Archipelago had mobilized 30 of their top geniuses and were fully prepared, yet they were still unable to kill Chen Hao and Chen Shui, then they would truly lose face. Not to mention the danger of being killed. Without needing Yi Shanshui's order, all of them violently activated their energy. The 28 people surrounded Chen Hao and Chen Shui from all directions. Moreover, each of them instantly activated their bloodline power and frantically condensed their strongest ultimate move. Countless screams came from all directions. So fucking shameless. They're attacking at the same time. What is this? Fuck them, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to sacrifice myself for the immortal Tao of the Eastern continent. How can we let such prodigies die at the hands of scoundrels? Boom boom boom. A shocking scene took place. Countless figures from the immortal Tao cultivators of the Eastern continent shot toward the core. Let the young people solve their problems. Do you think the immortal Tao of the South Sea Archipelago is easy to bully? Hiss hiss hiss. The immortal Tao of the South Sea Archipelago already had a huge advantage. Although they felt humiliated, if the immortal Tao of the Eastern continent really helped Chen Hao and Chen Shui to kill the young prodigies of the South Sea Archipelago, it would be unbearable. In their opinion, Yi Shanshui and the others were undoubtedly doing the right thing. The two prodigies of the Eastern continent were simply too amazing, especially Chen Hao. If he was allowed to grow, their South Sea Archipelago would definitely be trampled underfoot by the Eastern continent in the future. Moreover, at this point, everyone vaguely understood why the immortal Tao of the South Sea Archipelago had sent so many top prodigies to kill Chen Hao and Chen Shui. They were definitely monstrous prodigies that could not be seen in 1,000 years, at least in the three major forces. This was a battle for fortune and honor. Losing face for a few people was not a big deal, but losing face for the entire immortal Tao of the Eastern continent was a big deal. This was a matter of sacrificing oneself to protect the honor of the immortal Tao of the South Sea Archipelago. Die for me. Haha, Chen Shui, even if it's a corpse, Yi Shanshui, won't let you be innocent. All of you die. When faced with 28 extremely terrifying ultimate moves that covered the heavens and the earth, the eyes of Chen Hao and Chen Shui flickered with unprecedented, piercingly cold battle intent, and they attacked at the same time. The sky-shattering sword emitted a dark blue lightning radiance. The energy around Chen Shui's body was crazily extracted. Her essence, qi, true yuan, mind, and even the power of every cell in her body was completely released at this moment. The 8th level of the primal chaos lightning sword, lightning annihilation. At the same time, the aura of the destruction sword principle, which was extremely compatible with the aura of lightning annihilation, suddenly burst out. Victory or defeat would depend on this strike. This was the real her, and it was almost her strongest attack. This attack was countless times stronger than the other her. On the other hand, Chen Hao was different from Chen Shui. His body was trembling violently, and the energy around him was circulating at a terrifying speed. However, it was far from crazy because he was confident. When he killed a half-step primordial soul realm expert with a single strike, it gave him such confidence. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. In the chaotic battle between the two sides of the immortal Tao, in the eyes of countless cultivators who were not involved, and in the shock of the black bamboo hat, Jian Wufei, Lei Long, and the others, his body transformed into 6 figures in an instant. The 6 figures were extremely condensed. The aura of each figure was extremely terrifying. What was even more shocking was that only one of the 6 figures had a normal color, while the other 5 represented the 5 different colors of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Without a doubt, these 5 figures were the external avatars that could only be used by experts above the immortal Tao stage. However, even half-step primordial soul realm experts would rarely be able to create external avatars as lifelike as Chen Hao, let alone 5. Furthermore, the aura of each of them clearly told everyone that Chen Hao had condensed them into a magical treasure. At this moment, the sound of countless cultivators sucking in cold breaths of air was emitted from their mouths. Lei Long from the pavilion of heavenly armaments opened his eyes wide, and his body trembled slightly. At this moment, he even wanted to disregard his status as a member of the Chamber of Commerce and fight side by side with Chen Hao. Jian Wufei, who was determined to defeat Chen Hao fair and square, had a look of extreme shock in her eyes. Her body was trembling and her face was pale. She couldn't describe what she was feeling right now. She knew that before the battle even began, she had already lost. She had lost completely. Ever since the battle with Chen Hao, she, who had lost her immortal Tao stage will, had been cultivating bitterly. Her improvement was absolutely shocking, and the increase in her combat power was absolutely shocking. Originally, she thought that when she met Chen Hao again, she would defeat Chen Hao fair and square. But now, not only did the gap between them not shrink, but it also became unreachable. The man in the black bamboo hat was even more indescribable. In short, he felt conflicted. As a member of the immortal Tao of the Eastern continent, he hoped that Chen Hao would be able to kill all of his opponents. However, he also hoped that Chen Hao would die under the orders of the sect leader. Seeing Chen Hao display such heaven-defying talent, he really didn't know whether he should be excited or worried. Chi 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 chi. The 5 clones and the original body attacked at the same time. They didn't disappoint Chen Hao, and he didn't have the time to think about whether or not they would succeed. Terrifying destructive sword intent radiated from the 6 clones. The solitary sword technique, the platinum sky-splitting slash, and the mysteries of space were unleashed at the same time. Whirling slash. No one could describe what they were feeling at that moment. Even the experts in the early stage of the primordial spirit realm felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts when they saw Chen Hao's 5 sword lights that were connected together like an aurora cutting through space. Boom 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 boom, continuous explosions, one after another, rang out in everyone's ears, accompanied by horrified and despairing screams. Severed arms, severed limbs, heads, and fresh blood stained a large area of space red. Crack crack. At the same time, the terrifying thunderous sword light descended like a miniature divine punishment. Several clones were directly reduced to dust by the thunderous sword light. The immortal Dao personnel who were engaged in a fierce battle between the southern sea islands and the eastern continent stopped fighting in shock. All the spectating cultivators were dumbfounded, and the area within a radius of nearly 100 kilometers was completely silent. They stared blankly at the battle that had ended as quickly as it had come. They stared at the 6 clones of Chen Hao as they instantly merged into one. They stared at the tiny hand of Chen Hao, who seemed to be very weak but had a smile at the corner of her mouth. Even through the black veil, one could feel the myriad of emotions within her. With a wave of his hand, waves of energy were emitted. The weapons, storage rings, and other items that had yet to fall to the ground turned into streams of flowing light and merged into Chen Hao's storage ring. Then, the two of them soundlessly turned into 2 gusts of wind and completely disappeared from everyone's stupefied gazes. 30 people all dead. Whoosh! After a full minute of silence, all of the spectating cultivators erupted into an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the immortal Dao, the monster Dao, or the demonic Dao, no one dared to believe their eyes. Countless gasps of shock and disbelief sounded in everyone's ears. On the first day they stepped out of the eastern continent, the names of Chen Hao and Chen Shui rose into the sky like a fiery red sun. The eastern continent, the western continent, the southern sea archipelago, the immortal Dao, the demonic Dao, and the demonic Dao had never been seen in 1,000 years. Xiao Fei, let's go. This is a true prodigy who can shake up the entire cultivation world. There's no need for you to compare yourself to him. Even if it's an obsession, you can only let go. If you remove this knot in your heart, your cultivation will eventually be restricted. This kind of person will not become your inner demon, because he is destined to be someone that we cannot compare to. Master! Jian Wufei's face was pale. She was still immersed in shock, and her voice trembled slightly. You are the disciple that I am most proud of. Even the limitless immortal palace values you greatly. But you have to understand that a snake cannot be compared to a dragon. Do not belittle yourself, and do not bite off more than you can chew. Only by letting go can you transform from a snake into a dragon one day. Otherwise, you will be reduced to mediocrity. She is not inferior to the monstrous prodigies of the Middle Continent, and he is even more so. It's a pity. If not for my status in the Chamber of Commerce, I might not have met them by chance. Lei Long shook his head and said regretfully. He had helped Chen Hao, but it was only a reminder. If he had shown that he was willing to fight together with Chen Hao, even if it was just a gesture, he would not be as disappointed as he was now. This kind of prodigy was destined to become a peak existence. If he could form a good relationship with him, whether it was his own fate or his future cultivation level, it would most likely change greatly. Lei Long thought for a moment and thought of the auction that Chen Hao had mentioned. His eyes flashed, and he quickly disappeared into the buzzing crowd. I should leave. That's it, I'm free. From today onwards, I'm no longer me. It's the new me. Even though the Origin School can't do anything to me, so long as the Origin School goes against him, it will probably face a calamity sooner or later. Instead of this, why don't I leave as soon as possible? The man in the black bamboo hat took a deep breath and vanished on the spot. I've struck it rich this time. Hee. In the sky, Chen Hao, who had merged with everything in the world, looked at the slightly weak Chen Shui and spoke complacently. Chen Shui paid no attention to Chen Hao's complacency, and she looked directly at Chen Hao, who seemed as if nothing had happened. Instead, as she asked, "You've still retained your strength?" "I've basically not retained it. I just didn't summon the 5 divine beasts. Look, my energy is the same as yours, it's almost completely exhausted." "Then why are you still so spirited?" "My body is strong." Chen Hao patted his chest and said proudly. Then he looked at Chen Shui and said, "However, that attack of yours was really strong. If it was me, I might not have been able to take it. If you could change the chaotic lightning sword to the platinum sky-splitting slash, it would definitely be stronger. You haven't mastered the platinum sky-splitting slash? There are only 2 chapters left. Recently, day and night have been reversed, and I'm not strong enough. The pressure is too great, and I feel like I'm on the verge of collapse. I'll adjust my schedule and go to bed early. Dark Mountain promised to clear my debt on the 17th. When the time comes, I'll settle the debt. If I can't complete it, Dark Mountain will double the compensation. Thank you to AAA 999 AAA for your generous gifts, thank you to Dream Return for your gifts, and thank you to all the brothers who voted. I'm very gratified to have your support during my low tide. Thank you. Chapter 355. Chen Shui glared at Chen Hao and said, "Yes, I've mastered it. But didn't you say that I can't risk my life unless I have no other choice? I have to at least leave some energy to escape, right? Platinum Sky-Splitting Slash. If I use it, I can only use it once, and it will drain all my energy." That's right. It's good that you can master it in such a short time. When you're familiar with the use of power, you can slowly control it. However, if you use it at full power, it's very difficult to use it more than 10 times. This Platinum Sky-Splitting Slash will increase with the increase of our cultivation, and the energy it needs to use will also become more and more. Not only did the number of times I can use it at full power not increase, it decreased instead. I can only use it 6 times. Chen Hao said. After stepping into the incarnation realm, the power of the Platinum Sky-Splitting Slash naturally increased a lot, but the number of times Chen Hao could use it decreased sharply. If Chen Hao's estimation was right, when he reached the half-step primordial soul realm, which was the peak of the incarnation realm, he should be able to increase it again between 10 to 12 times. In such a situation, the only explanation was that the Platinum Sky-Splitting Slash used by Chen Hao was still a transcendent-level unique skill. It was simply impossible to use it as a sword skill that could be used casually. You used the external incarnation to use it 6 times at the same time just now? That's right. If the external incarnation is successfully condensed, it will be much faster than using a unique skill consecutively. You can try to refine the sky-shattering sword into an external incarnation. It's definitely not difficult for you. Oh, what's with your sword principle inheritance? Didn't you say that it's very weak? Why is it also the destruction sword principle like me? Chen Shui. She had wanted to ask this question since the intersect competition, but at that time, she couldn't ask. I thought it was useless, so how could I tell you what it was? But now, I can tell you. What? Secular sword Dao. Chen Shui was slightly taken aback before she seemed to have thought of something. Her gaze towards Chen Hao became a little strange as she frowned and said, "No wonder you've changed so much. After I comprehended the destruction sword principle, my mother specially told me about the attributes of the sword principle. The secular sword principle is the rarest sword principle and also the most difficult sword principle to cultivate. It's equivalent to the combination of all sword principles. If you comprehend it yourself, you have to integrate yourself into the secular world and taste the various extreme emotions of humans. Not only does it require you to break through the secular world, but you also have to be able to integrate yourself into various states of mind at any time and place." Why are you still calling me that now? Is there a problem? With our relationship, I can't call you Chen Shui, right? That's too unfamiliar. How about I call you Big Snow, Old Snow, or Blizzard? Chen Hao laughed. Don't you think it's just right to call me Sister Shui? Don't even think about it. This is for you. You can change it after we get a room. Don't show up, just follow me. Chen Hao said as he took out a set of black robes and bamboo hat and handed it to Chen Shui. He also took out a set and put it on. Chen Shui glared at Chen Hao in dissatisfaction, but didn't argue. 2 luxurious rooms. After entering the inn, Chen Hao, who was wearing a black robe and bamboo hat, directly went to the front desk and said in a cold voice, "I'm sorry, sir. Because of the large-scale auction of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, we only have 1 luxurious room. This one was just left empty after we received news of the battle outside the city." "Then 2 ordinary rooms," Chen Hao said. "I'm sorry, the ordinary rooms are already gone. The entire Emerald Smoke City is overcrowded. If it weren't for the fact that one of our experts died in the battle just now, we wouldn't have any empty rooms. the attendant said respectfully. He had no scruples about the dead. Of course, in this world, no one would have any scruples. The rooms for the top geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands? Chen Hao asked with a frown. Yes. Sir, do you need it? That room is the best in our inn. It can accommodate 11 people without a problem. It's just that the price is a bit higher. That one. Hearing the attendant say so, Chen Hao directly said, 800 low-grade crystals a day. It's really expensive. But it seems to be worth it. When Chen Hao entered the room, he said to Chen Shui, who had already revealed herself. The room was very large, as if it was in a small palace. There were 10 small suites and 1 main suite. Each suite had a bathroom and a cultivation room. I'll go and recover first, Chen Shui said. What's the hurry? Let's see what we got first. Otherwise, I'll embezzle, Chen Hao said with a smile. As he spoke, he took out the spirit tools and storage rings he had just obtained with a trace of expectation on his face. 30 top geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands, all of them, the harvest would not be small, right? Embezzle as much as you want, just give me what is useful to me. I just need to temper my body, Chen Shui said. Saying so, she walked directly to a small suite. The moment she closed the door, she seemed to think of something and smiled. Little brother, do you have any more spirit spring? Give me some more. Yes. But I can't give it to you. If you want it, you have to learn how to speak first. Forget it. Chen Shui looked at Chen Hao's proud expression, curled her lips and said. After speaking, she closed the door with a bang and pretended to be angry. This is my principle, how can I give in? After not sensing Chen Shui's aura, Chen Hao's mouth revealed a smile, and he thought to himself. Although he didn't know if Chen Shui was waiting at the door, he deliberately raised his voice and counted. 12 million low-grade primordial crystals, 2 million mid-grade primordial crystals, 130,000 high-grade primordial crystals, 387 top-grade primordial crystals, 30 high-grade spirit weapons, 20 mid-grade treasured clothes, and 10 high-grade treasured clothes. And these extremely valuable special pills, as expected of the top geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands, really rich? Unfortunately, these treasured clothes have become rotten goods. Unless they are repaired, they are not worth much. But it's enough. This time, even if I consume it quickly, it's enough for me to use for 2 years. Huh? What is this? Just when Chen Hao arranged everything in front of him, a dark blue ball thing mixed in a pile of odds and ends attracted Chen Hao's attention. Judging from the aura, he couldn't sense any power at all. If he didn't look carefully, he would think that it was some kind of treasure collection. But when Chen Hao's mind probed one by one, he found something unusual about it. A subtle, almost imperceptible, profound aura concealed its aura. Chen Hao directly took out a strand of blood essence and sprayed it on the dark blue crystal ball the size of an eyeball, and his mind immediately merged into it. After a moment, Chen Hao's eyes widened in surprise, and he looked at the door of the room where Chen Shui was. Hey, little Shui, don't wait at the door, this is a matter of principle, call me brother, maybe I will give it to you? Well, you have to be willing to call me brother, what are you staring at? Yeah, what's wrong with clenching your fists and biting your teeth? Pa. Chen Hao laughed proudly. And Chen Shui, who had merged into the world, waiting at the door for Chen Hao to change his mind and give her the spirit spring, also widened her eyes in shock. He saw her? How was this possible? Fuck. At this time, Chen Hao suddenly cursed. He suddenly retracted his gaze. It wasn't because of Chen Shui, but because he could see even further, directly seeing the room of another guest. This was not a visual sight, but a perception so sharp that it shocked Chen Hao. Even if Chen Shui had merged into the world, she still appeared clearly in his perception. And in the room next door, he could sense 2 auras. They were both experts of the incarnation stage, but they were stacked together and were vibrating at a high frequency. Although he could only sense their auras, but he knew what the 2 were doing. How could Chen Hao not be shocked? It must be known that between the rooms, there were layers upon layers of seals and seals. Even Chen Hao's powerful soul perception was unable to penetrate through. But at this moment, he could clearly sense it, and it was inadvertently. Chapter 356. Fortunately, I'm stronger than them. If I wasn't their match, how would I run? God's Eye, high-grade spirit treasure. Spirit treasure, not spirit weapon. Squeak. When Chen Shui heard Chen Hao's crazy words, she finally couldn't resist the curiosity in her heart and walked out. What God's Eye? Send a wisp of your mind over. A dark blue light suddenly shone from between Chen Hao's eyebrows, as if a third eye had appeared, emitting a profound mystery. At the instant Chen Shui withdrew a strand of her consciousness and fused it into the space between Chen Hao's brows, her perception instantly became extremely sharp, and it instantly and silently penetrated through the layer upon layer of seals set up by the inn, causing Chen Shui to stare with surprise, and then she was shocked and hastily withdrew her perception. High-grade spirit treasure. I've made a huge profit this time. With it, my perception range can be increased by at least 3 times, and the sensitivity of close-range perception can be increased by 100 times. Good stuff. Moreover, it can be applied to your body. This thing fell off from Yi Shanshui's body. I really didn't expect that in order to deal with the two of us, the Southern Sea Islands actually paid such a huge price. When Chen Hao saw Chen Shui's face suddenly turn red, he hurriedly changed the topic and said proudly. Of course, he knew what Chen Shui sensed. Then I'll give you the spirit spring. Although this is effective in tempering the body, the effect is too weak. I'll give this to you too. Chen Hao didn't wait for Chen Shui to speak and said. As he spoke, he handed over the storage ring and a jade slip that contained the spirit spring to Chen Shui. What is this? You don't need to know what it is. You only need to try chanting when you cultivate. It doesn't matter if you understand or not, as long as you divide a wisp of your mind to chant. I don't know if it's useful to you. Give it a try. Chen Hao said. Chen Shui frowned slightly, but still took it in her hand and directly entered the cultivation room. Her soul is also extremely powerful, it should be useful. After Chen Shui entered the cultivation room, Chen Hao secretly said in his heart. If it was possible, Chen Hao would have imparted the platinum sky-splitting slash and the 3,000 great Daos to Helian Wuzi, Tantai Lian and Xia Yuyu a long time ago, but he didn't. Because he knew very well that even if he passed it to the 3 of them, they would not be able to cultivate it at all. This was because it required a sufficiently powerful soul to support it. Otherwise, it would have the opposite effect. Only Qin Shuifeng, who had a powerful soul, could do it. I should still be able to make it now. If I don't need anything, I'll just sell it all off. Should I directly sell it to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion? Chen Hao looked at the damaged armor and the intact high-grade spirit weapon and thought to himself. Although he had a lot of primordial crystal stones now, it was only enough for Chen Hao to use for his own cultivation for a long time. If he wanted to refine the 5 mythological beasts and further fuse with the mysterious existence, he would have to make do. After stepping into the incarnation realm, Chen Hao could already fuse with the mysterious existence further. However, due to the lack of sufficient energy to support it, it had never been carried out. Even the 5 divine beasts didn't continue their tempering. The price might be lower, but it doesn't matter. At least it'll be faster. Thinking of this, Chen Hao kept the things and walked out of the room. 4 hours later, Chen Hao returned with a full load. He was a little surprised by Lei Long's enthusiasm and generosity. 30 upper-grade spirit weapons were sold for an average of 300,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones each. Even if this price was taken out for auction, it would not be much higher. And the 10 damaged upper-grade spirit weapons were sold for an average of 200,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. The 20 upper-grade spirit weapons were sold for an average of 10,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. This made Chen Hao feel even more surprised. What's more, Lei Long had exchanged all of Chen Hao's primordial crystal stones for upper-grade spirit weapons according to the normal ratio. Chen Hao was sure that Lei Long was making a loss in this transaction, at least on the surface. But in reality, Lei Long had indeed put in a lot of effort. Moreover, he had directly closed the deal without going through the higher-ups. However, what Chen Hao did not know was that after Lei Long had bought all of the things that Chen Hao had sold to him, he had sealed them up. He was waiting for the right time to sell these things at a price that exceeded their original value. Although the risk was great, Lei Long firmly believed that there would be such a day. After witnessing today's miracle, he chose to believe in Chen Hao. Adding on the original spirit stones of the 30 guys, the wealth obtained this time is a total of 387 pieces of top-grade primordial crystal stones, 1. 25 million high-grade primordial crystal stones, 4. 2 million mid-grade primordial crystal stones, and 12 million low-grade primordial crystal stones. This is definitely equivalent to the consumption of all the disciples of a 7th-grade sect in 3 years. When I came out to train, sect master spat out blood and clenched his teeth, but he only gave me 100,000 mid-grade primal crystal stones. This is a classic example of getting rich overnight. I wonder if it's enough. Thinking of this, Chen Hao directly stepped into the cultivation room and merged his consciousness into his mind. It should be enough now, right? In terms of pure energy, it's barely enough. If you encounter the materials you need during the auction, I'm afraid it won't be enough. However, it's important to gather the materials first. I'll let you know if you need them. Primordial crystal stones are easy to get with your conditions. But the materials can only be found by chance. Some things, I'm afraid you'll have to gather them yourself. The voice of the mysterious existence appeared in Chen Hao's mind. Are you tricking me or not? So when I fuse, I don't need so much energy and I don't need anything? Hearing the words of the mysterious existence, Chen Hao asked gloomily. So it's just awakening my lowest 2 stages of fusion. Naturally I don't need anything. But when you step into the incarnation stage, fusion is the real first step. Once the fusion is successful, it will bring you benefits that no amount of wealth can exchange for. Then what benefits are there? Can you at least reveal some to me? I worked so hard to get so many primordial crystal stones, and it's such a waste. Waste? Alright, then I'll reveal a little to you. Don't you think it's a waste to open an immortal-grade pill furnace? There are countless pill formulas in it. As long as you can comprehend them, you can refine the corresponding elixir, and the success rate is 100 times higher than the so-called best-grade spirit treasures in this world. It will also allow you to improve the use of various kinds of energy in the process of refining elixirs. This is only one of its functions. Of course, this function will only become more powerful as your strength increases. So, maybe you don't have the concept. Let me give you an example. The Nirvana pill you ate, it's precious, right? In the cultivation world here, it's worth 100,000 middle-grade primordial crystal stones, right? You need at least a creation stage alchemist to refine it, right? But as long as you successfully fuse with me, now you can refine it as long as you have the materials. And the medicinal effect will be much better. Really? Of course it's true. Alright, then I'll believe you. There's one more thing to remind you. The legacy of the secular sword Dao is considered a good legacy. You can comprehend it more. Although it will affect your state of mind, it will definitely be good for your future cultivation. You don't need to remind me, I've already realized it. Alright, that's all. After Chen Hao finished speaking, he cut off the connection with the mysterious existence. In the beginning, Chen Hao tried his best to comprehend the inheritance of the secular sword principle, but every time, it made him feel uneasy. Distracting thoughts came one after another, and all kinds of emotions would come out of nowhere. This kind of feeling made him collapse. Chen Hao would rather suffer the pain of his soul than be immersed in these kinds of emotions. But now, with the understanding of the secular sword Dao, Chen Hao understood that even if he did not major in sword Dao, this thing was the existence that could improve his combat strength the most at present. Taking out 10 upper-grade primordial crystal stones at one time, Chen Hao immersed himself in cultivation and recovery. In the blink of an eye, it was the 3rd day. Early in the morning, 2 figures in black robes and black bamboo hats walked out of the inn with the crowd. These 2 people were Chen Hao and Chen Shui, but at this moment, it was impossible to tell who they were from their appearance. Moreover, the 2 of them did not use the incantation to merge with all things in the world. They just walked with the crowd toward the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. Moreover, no one would notice. This was because there were too many people in the same attire as Qin Hao and Qin Shui. And it was obvious that they were all going for the auction. Especially at such a large-scale auction, many people would not reveal their true identities. Only those with strong backgrounds who were not afraid of being targeted would show their true faces. Not showing off one's wealth was one thing. Grudges and feuds were the most common things at auctions. In particular, it was very common for people who had won powerful treasures to be targeted and lose both their wealth and life. Fuck, I'm a few days late. I actually missed such a grand battle that spread the name of the Eastern Continent's immortal Tao. I can't believe that Qin Hao and Qin Shui are so powerful. How long has it been since the intersect competition? It's unbelievable. This kind of genius is not something we can measure. The sect leader valued him when he was still weak. He really has a good eye, huh? That's right. However, this Qin Hao is a bit too fickle. Our Yu Yu, as well as Helian Wuzi and Tantai Lien from the star-picking sect, are already three obvious ones. Now there's Qin Shui, and she seems to be stronger than Yu Yu. This isn't a good thing for our Ling Tian sect. What can we do? It's a waste of youth if he's not fickle. Moreover, you haven't seen Qin Shui. I'm afraid Qin Shui is not inferior to our Yu Yu in any aspect. Unfortunately, Yu Yu was brought to the limitless celestial palace. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. That's impossible, right? It's possible if you say Qin Shui's combat strength and talent surpass Yu Yu. How can she compare to Yu Yu's appearance? The hedgehog still thinks its son is smooth and smooth. Although it's just a metaphor, it's said that the two of them will appear at the auction this time. You'll know when you see them. I really hope they don't appear. Fuck. The Valley Master of the Coiling Dragon Valley in the Southern Sea Archipelago actually chased after Qin Hao and Qin Shui. Who knows what they'll do? What made Qin Hao and Qin Shui feel a little awkward was the two old men who were walking in front of them were actually discussing in a low voice. Although the voice was very low and suppressed within a certain range, if they hadn't obtained the God's Eye, the two of them definitely wouldn't have been able to hear it. But now, with the powerful senses of the God's Eye, they could clearly hear it. Fortunately, the two of them were not holding hands at this moment. Otherwise, their palms would be sweating. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 357. Little Shui, it looks like we're in trouble. What should we do? The Coiling Dragon Valley's Valley Master is probably an elite at the peak of the late-stage creation realm. We won't be able to hide our auras from him. Most importantly, you don't have the Guardian token. If he attacks you, we won't be able to do anything. We've killed 30 of their top prodigies, so he's probably angry from embarrassment. Even if he's wary of the Guardian token, he has many ways to deal with us. Qin Hao frowned and said, "Forget it. I think we shouldn't go to the auction. As long as we have the token, the pan fruit won't lose its effect. Let's just leave." Go directly to the central continent? They're probably monitoring the transportation formation. It's too obvious if we're together. Why don't we split up? I'll go first. 15 minutes later. No need. We won't leave through the transportation formation. We'll leave the city directly. The transportation formation is where the spies gather. There's no secret we can hide. Leave the city directly? You mean we'll train all the way? Although it's dangerous, it's better than being watched. Let's go. Let's go to a secluded place and hide. Otherwise, we'll be recognized. Very quickly, when the two of them followed the flow of people and reached a turn, the two of them suddenly increased their speed and walked into a hidden corner of a shop. Soon after, without anyone noticing, they directly turned into two gusts of wind. Lock onto those two. In a luxurious private room in the huge auction house, several old men sat inside. Each of them had an extremely powerful aura. Every time there was a young man or woman in the auction house, they would become the target of these old men. These old men were the important figures of the 10 sects of the Southern Sea Archipelago. The old man sitting in the middle was the Coiling Dragon Valley's Valley Master. Every old man's expression was extremely ugly. 30 top prodigies who represented the younger generation of the 10 sects of the Southern Sea Archipelago. How could they not be angry when Chen Hao and Chen Shui killed all of them? This was especially the case for the Valley Master of the Coiling Dragon Valley, who was absolutely livid. When he received the news, he was so enraged that he destroyed an entire mountain. After all, Yu Chengfeng and Yi Shanshui were the two disciples that he was most proud of. They were also the disciples that he took pride in and spent a lot of effort on. However, they were actually killed by Chen Hao one after another. Moreover, this time, Yi Shanshui was holding his upper-grade Earth-level spirit treasure, the Heavenly Eye. That was an Earth-level upper-tier spirit treasure. Even in the Coiling Dragon Valley, it was extremely precious. There are already more than 100 of them. Brother Jean, the difference between their auras and their realms is obviously too great. It shouldn't be. I'd rather kill 1,000 by mistake than miss one. No matter what, I have to catch this brat. So what if Limitless Immortal Palace knew about it? As long as our 10 Immortal Dao sects join forces, I don't believe that Limitless Immortal Palace can do anything to us. How can the top 30 geniuses of the younger generation die in vain? All right then, at the entrance to the auction house. Young master. When an imposing young man arrived at the entrance of the auction house, an old man immediately bowed in greeting. Are the two of them here yet? Not yet, young master. The Valley Master of the Coiling Dragon Valley has made such a big commotion. I'm afraid the two of them, if they're not here, they're probably going to the Central Continent. Let's wait and see. Where are their seats? I'll wait inside. Inform me immediately if there's any news. It'll be a pity if I can't get to know them. Yes, young master. Their pass numbers have already corresponded to the third Earth box. Young master, you're truly admirable for making friends with so many geniuses. Don't worry, young master. Even if they don't show up at this auction, they'll definitely come back to collect their gains in the future, the old man said respectfully. If Chen Hao were here, he would definitely recognize this old man as the appraiser who had received him at the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. This young man was famous in Emerald Smoke City. He was the eldest grandson of the president of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, the young master of the Chamber of Commerce, and the successor of the next generation. He was not even 30 years old, but he was already a half-step primordial spirit realm cultivator. His combat strength was extremely terrifying, and he was known as the top young expert in Emerald Smoke City. Even a mid-stage primordial spirit realm expert was no match for him. Apart from his own talent, this naturally had to do with the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce's powerful financial resources. Any piece of equipment he took off could crush an Avatar realm expert to death. 4 hours later, two faintly discernible gusts of wind suddenly stopped. Phew! What an evil aura! Is this an extraterrestrial demon beast? Chen Hao and Chen Shui, who had merged with all things in the world, stood in the void hand in hand as they sensed the terrifying aura in front of them. Extraterrestrial demon beasts were terrifying existences that the entire boundless continent had to defend against at all times. In the secular world and the cultivation world of the Eastern continent, because the Immortal Dao, Demon Dao, and Devil Dao had jointly set up a spatial region barrier, they were basically not attacked by the extraterrestrial demon beasts. However, every sect's experts at the peak of the late incarnation realm and above had to work together to resist the extraterrestrial demon beast tide when it erupted. The Immortal Dao, Monster Dao, and Demon Dao were no exception. It was just that Chen Hao and the other young disciples had not been able to catch up in time. But now, in a city like Emerald Smoke City, which was not protected by a regional barrier, extraterrestrial demon beast tides would often appear. It should be. Won't it be too dangerous for us to leave like this? Once a demon beast tide erupts, even if it's a third-grade one, the two of us won't be able to defend against it. Just be careful. According to the records, demon beast tides don't erupt so easily. Let's go and avoid these fellows. Let's leave Emerald Smoke City first. If those old creation realm fellows really chase after us, we'll be in big trouble. We've killed too many this time. Come, I'll carry you. Chen Hao said as he wrapped his arms around Chen Shui's slender waist. What are you doing? Chen Shui was so frightened that she hurriedly pushed Chen Hao and asked with a little panic. However, Chen Hao did not retreat or give way. He firmly held Chen Shui's small waist, which could be held with one hand, under his strong arms. It's important to hurry. Our speed is too far behind that of a creation realm expert. You rest first. I'll take you away. When I'm tired, it'll be your turn. Don't be embarrassed. What's our relationship? Chen Hao said with a serious expression. As he spoke, he increased his speed to the maximum. Chen Shui wanted to say something, but in the end, she did not say it. Not only that, she also had to forcefully control her heartbeat and breathing. She could not let Chen Hao feel that anything was wrong. However, her body still could not help but tense up. There was nothing she could do about it. So what if they were siblings? Besides, they were not related by blood. Besides, she had long since developed feelings for Chen Hao that went beyond the relationship between siblings. She could still remain calm when holding hands with Chen Hao, but to be so intimate with him, after all, she was a young girl, and she had never come into contact with any man before. If it was anyone else, they might not be able to bear it, right? Fortunately, Chen Hao really seemed to be rushing and did not have any other thoughts. Chen Shui also knew that if the two of them activated their energy to fly at the same time, their speed would indeed be a little faster for a short period of time, but only by a little. After all, to a cultivator, bringing a person with them was about the same as carrying a very light sword. The impact on speed was basically negligible. If the two of them took turns, they would be able to save time to rest. Their speed would at least be increased by a little. However, what Chen Shui did not know was, this waist is really thin and it feels really good. It's much thinner than the one I encountered in the illusion. Chen Hao, who looked serious and seemed to be rushing with all his might, said a little evilly in his heart. He, who had begun to comprehend the secular Sword Dao inheritance again, as long as his mind was integrated into the Sword Dao inheritance, all kinds of illusions would appear. Moreover, the people in each illusion were people he knew and came into contact with. Sometimes, it was things from the previous life, and sometimes it was in this life. All kinds of illusions that disturbed one's state of mind seemed to be completely real. It was as if Chen Hao had obtained a new life and experienced the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the mortal world. In this situation, if it were not for Chen Hao's tenacious mind and strong soul, he would probably collapse and become a demon at any time. This was also the main reason why Chen Hao had not been willing to try to comprehend the secular Sword Dao inheritance. And these 2 nights, there were illusions where Chen Shui was present. Illusions were born from the heart, and the secular Sword Dao inheritance magnified any insignificant feelings in Chen Hao's heart by hundreds or thousands of times. It's just a little hard. No, this girl is nervous, Chen Hao secretly said, smelling the faint virgin body fragrance on Chen Shui's body, and then thinking of Chen Shui's possible mood at the moment. Chen Hao was smug and wanted to tease her, but he still held back. He was afraid of poking through the layer of paper. Otherwise, if the relationship between the two of them heated up, what if he couldn't help it? 2 hours later, Chen Hao flew continuously in an extreme state. After consuming nearly half of his energy, he finally stopped, and it was Chen Shui's turn to fly with him in her arms. With the powerful soul perception ability, the two of them avoided cultivators and demon beasts from afar and did not stop. Half a month later, the two of them had flown at least 10 million miles and encountered countless terrifying foreign demonic beasts. Fortunately, the two of them were in a state where they had merged with everything in the world. Otherwise, with their cultivation bases, they would have died long ago. At this moment, even the two of them did not know where they were flying to. The information in the Guardian Order only recorded the city and the area near the city. The two of them flew such a long distance aimlessly, there was no record at all. What a beautiful valley. We have been flying for so long, we should be safe. The aura of the demon beasts in this 1,000-mile radius is not very strong. Why don't we go down and rest? Chen Shui gazed at the fairyland-like valley below and said, after flying continuously for half a month, even if the two of them took turns, Their bodies and minds were exhausted to the limit. Anyway, we don't know where we are. The aura here is suitable for us to cultivate. Chen Hao replied. One update. Sigh, not only can I not fight for the third update, I can't fight for the second update either. I saw the doctor yesterday and went to the hospital today for a detailed examination, but the final results are not out yet. But the situation is definitely a little serious. The headache caused by the cervical vertebra is chest tightness, and there is a possibility of nervous breakdown. To be honest, Wu Shan really does not feel that the cervical vertebra is that bad. But the occupational disease should have already come. I will get the results tomorrow. After that, I will do a detailed treatment. The update can only be postponed. Yesterday, I promised that before the 10th of next month, I will double the amount. I am afraid that I will not be able to finish it before the 10th. I will tell you in advance. Brothers and sisters who can't wait, please take care of them first. I will catch my breath and recover. During this time, I will try my best to maintain 2 updates. If I can't maintain it, there is nothing I can do. I am really sorry, I can't really throw away my life just because of writing. I write slowly. Sitting for 14 hours a day without moving is really too painful. Before the end of the world comes, I really don't want to die early. Chapter 358. In the valley, streams flowed, spring water gurgled, and vegetation grew on both sides of the valley. Green pines and cypresses, strange flowers and plants were everywhere. In the narrow and dangerous places, waterfalls could be seen everywhere. There were many natural caves on both sides, decorating the valley with an unusually mysterious and beautiful appearance. At the bottom of the valley, there was a lake with a radius of 3,000 meters. Looking down from above, it looked like a piece of green jade, emitting a sparkling light. Ah! Not good. The 2 of them had just descended for less than 1,000 meters when they cried out in alarm at the same time. A liquid-like, invisible, untouchable and undetectable energy barrier actually blocked the 2 of them, and in an instant, the 2 of them seemed to have fallen into a quagmire. Chen Hao and Chen Shui activated their energy at the same time. Violent true essence rose from their bodies, wanting to blast away the strange energy that was sticking to their bodies. But what shocked the 2 of them even more was that after the true essence broke out of their bodies, it was like mud sinking into the sea. Not only did it not break, but the strange energy that was surrounding the 2 of them became even more powerful. It surged with an irresistible force that the 2 of them were like elastic ropes that tightly wrapped around the 2 of them. The 2 of them were originally holding hands, but at this moment, they directly became face to face with their bodies pressed against each other. Their faces and bodies, with a bang, collided with each other like 2 poles of a magnet. The terrifying force of the collision caused Chen Shui's peerlessly beautiful eyes to see stars. Her nose felt sour, and her heart was both terrified and shy. Chen Hao's mouth had already been tightly pressed together with her little mouth through her thin black veil. Their bodies were even more closely pressed together, and she could clearly feel that her cheeks and soft breasts were severely deformed, yet that terrifying force still pressed against her. Chen Shui's eyes could no longer see anything. She even suspected that her eyes had been crushed by Chen Hao's face, and her entire body felt like it was about to explode. Chen Shui had no choice but to gather all the strength in her body to resist this pressure. Chen Hao was also desperately activating his energy, but the more he did so, the tighter the binding force became. Chen Hao's physical body was several times stronger than Chen Shui's, so he naturally didn't feel as much pain as Chen Shui. However, he could clearly feel that Chen Shui's face, soft breasts, and body were about to be crushed by his own body. Xiao Shui, stop struggling. Restrain your true essence. Chen Hao was also frightened to the extreme, but the more frightened he was, the calmer his mind was. He clearly realized that after struggling for a while, Chen Shui was about to be crushed by him. Chen Hao suddenly withdrew all of his strength and sent a voice transmission to Chen Shui at the same time, anxiously saying. His voice even contained the clear heart technique of the evening drum and morning bell. He was afraid that Chen Shui had already fallen into madness. In such a situation, it would be better if he shouted out loud. However, Chen Hao had no choice but to transmit his voice. This was because their mouths had been completely stuffed. He couldn't see anything with his eyes. Only his mind could sense his surroundings. At this moment, if one were to look at the two of them from the outside, they would seem to have become conjoined twins. Chen Shui's entire body was squashed flat, as if she was stuck to Chen Hao's body. Fortunately, just as Chen Hao finished speaking, Chen Shui, who was frantically struggling, retracted her energy. What is this? I can't take it anymore. Could it be? Chen Shui's mind was clear as she transmitted her voice to Chen Hao with a trace of fear. In fact, if not for Chen Shui's soul being much stronger than ordinary people, she would have long fallen into madness or fainted from the pain of her body being squashed flat. Of course, if she had fainted earlier, she wouldn't be in such a miserable state now. Because after the two of them gave up struggling one after another, the squeezing force surrounding their bodies did not increase anymore. It only maintained the current state. It was obviously impossible for the two of them to separate. 9 Nether Frost Pool. Chen Shui and Chen Hao's voices resounded in their minds at the same time. That's right, it must be the 9 Nether Frost Pool. I didn't expect that we would accidentally encounter one of the top 10 mysterious lands of the boundless continent. Little Shui, you have to hold on. Heal your injuries first and don't care about anything else. Just take care of yourself and don't emit any energy. I'll think of a way. Chen Hao's mind was filled with intense shock and worry as he transmitted his voice to her. The 9 Nether Frost Pool, in the records of the boundless continent that Chen Hao had obtained, was one of the top 10 mysterious lands of the boundless continent. It was 6 million miles away from the nearest city, Dragon Cliff City. It was discovered by cultivators tens of thousands of years ago. When it was discovered, countless cultivators had already died in the barrier of the 9 Nether Frost Pool. The first cultivator who sent the news of the 9 Nether Frost Pool back to the cultivation world was lucky enough not to enter the barrier. He watched as his companions, who were several times stronger than him, exploded one by one from the pressure. After that, countless experts went to explore it, but no one succeeded. Not a single person who stepped into the barrier could come out. Even a few immortal supremacies had died in there. The supreme existences of the immortal Tao, the supreme existences of the demon Tao, and the supreme existences of the demon Tao, the supreme existences of the immortal Tao, the supreme existences of the demon Tao, sent out countless experts who were nearing the end of their lifespans and had no hope of advancing to the next realm to try. But in the end, they all died in the barrier and couldn't even pass through it. Not to mention entering it and coming out alive. Is there any other way? It was hard for Chen Shui not to feel despair. How could she and Chen Hao do something that the entire boundless continent couldn't crack for tens of thousands of years? Not to mention that their cultivation was only at the incarnation realm, even if they were at the creation realm. So what? I'm sorry, Chen. Little brother, I've harmed you. If I didn't want to rest here, this wouldn't have happened. Sorry my ass. Little brother my ass. Just follow me and heal your injuries. Persevere for as long as you can. If you can't persevere, you have to persevere with me. Remember to recite the words that I pass to you. Even if the rest of the world can't, it doesn't mean that we can't. Believe in yourself. Don't give up until the last moment. Do as I say. Chen Hao immediately swore and transmitted his voice to Bai Yunfei. His voice was unquestionable and domineering. Even though he knew that hope was so slim that it was close to none, how could Chen Hao give up? Even if he died, he had to die with a bang. How could he die so miserably? He still had a lot of things to do and a lot of goals to achieve. For the sake of his obsession, he didn't waste a single bit of time. He cultivated crazily for his goals at all times. In his previous life, he had stepped onto the peak of earth, but he had never enjoyed family, love, or friendship. In this lifetime, he possessed the qualifications to enjoy family, love, and friendship, but for the sake of his own obsession and goal, he didn't stop to enjoy it because he knew that in this cruel world where martial arts were respected, if he were to enjoy life at this moment, it would only be a flash in the pan, and it would be shattered and destroyed at any moment. This wasn't what he wanted. What he wanted was eternal brilliance, a happiness that no one could destroy. How could he die now? Qin Shui didn't speak anymore. It wasn't that she believed in Qin Hao, but she chose to believe and also chose to listen to Qin Hao's orders. She threw away all distracting thoughts and immersed herself in healing. She knew that if she didn't do so, it wouldn't take long for her to die here. Although she would die here in the end, as long as she didn't exhaust her energy and didn't struggle, she could prolong her life as much as possible. No one could save her. Once she fell into the barrier, even the palace master of limitless immortal palace couldn't save her. No information or energy could be transmitted outside the barrier. What was the use of the will left in her mind by her mother? In this barrier, any aura would be blocked. The power of will couldn't be activated at all. Moreover, even if it could be activated, the final result would make her die faster. Any power that was released would be more violently applied to her body. This was the horror of this barrier. No matter the level of cultivation, it was the same treatment. This was basically a state of waiting for death, a fate that couldn't be escaped. However, she wanted to live a little longer. Because Chen Hao hadn't given up and was still with her. If Chen Hao could talk when he gave up, it would be good to wait for his energy to exhaust and die. Sensing that Qin Shui had truly entered the healing state, Chen Hao heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Of course, he was only relieved for Qin Shui. Whether he could succeed or not was unknown, and he didn't have any confidence at all. If he couldn't succeed in the end, it was just a matter of dying early or late. If he succeeded and Qin Shui died in front of him, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. He was very clear that this was a dangerous situation that he had never encountered before, a dangerous situation that all the powerful people in the boundless world couldn't understand and solve. But he was confident. Until the last moment, he was confident. Moreover, the mysterious existence in his mind had already recognized the nature of the barrier. Phew! Chen Hao let out a long sigh of relief in his heart, threw away all the distracting thoughts, and asked in his mind, "What is the Qi of origin?" This was the name that the mysterious existence said in shock in Chen Hao's mind after Chen Hao merged into the barrier. Qi of origin, as the name suggests, is the Qi of origin of this world. It is the foundation of this world. In the universe, there are countless planets, and every planet's Qi of origin is different. And this barrier is formed by the Qi of origin of this world. If I'm not wrong, the valley within the barrier is one of the primordial spaces of this world, the mysterious existence said in a deep voice. In that case, Qi of origin is the highest and most advanced energy in this world? Primordial space, which is the initial embryonic state of this world. It can't be described as energy. To be exact, it's not energy. It's just the origin, which covers the essence of everything in this world, the origin of everything. Primordial space is the initial form of this world. The origin of everyone in this world, any living thing or non-living thing, is it. It's the origin of all existence in this world. As long as one belongs to this world, it's basically impossible to break it, unless one's cultivation is high enough to destroy this world. Otherwise, one will always be bound by the origin, the mysterious existence said. Try to write the second chapter before 12 o'clock. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian.com to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 359. However, you're an exception. Because you don't belong here, your origin isn't here. You don't need to have the ability to destroy this world. As long as you can comprehend the mystery of this Qi of origin, this barrier won't be able to trap you. However, I'm afraid it'll take a long time. Even if your comprehension is high, it'll probably take a year and a half. The mysterious existence said in a heavy voice. Obviously, in the face of this predicament, although he understood, he was helpless. His ability rose according to Qin Hao's ability. At this moment, because Qin Hao had not merged further after stepping into the incarnation realm, his ability was even more limited. A year and a half? I can't even move my fingers now. How can I hold on for so long? The mysterious existence's words increased the pressure on Qin Hao by 1,000 times. At this moment, even if he restrained all his energy, the most basic consumption was still there. And he couldn't take out primordial crystal stones and spirit spring to replenish his energy. How long could this last? Moreover, Chen Hao was very clear that under this so-called qi of origin, not only was he unable to refine and absorb any energy of heaven and earth, but the energy in his body was constantly being devoured. Even if he completely restrained it, it was impossible for there not to be any leakage of energy. 3 days was already his limit. After many people entered, they could only watch helplessly as their energy ran out and died. I can urge the spirit spring and primordial crystal stones to provide energy to you. It shouldn't be a problem to last for half a year. If you can't comprehend it before the energy runs out, then the consequences will be unimaginable. Also, if you still want to provide energy to Chen Shui, you can only last for less than 2 months. She's affected by the origin and her energy consumption will be much faster than you. How to choose, you decide. The mysterious existence said. During this period of contact, he already understood Chen Hao very well. If he didn't tell him the seriousness of the problem, it was impossible for Chen Hao to give up on Chen Shui. Moreover, he was also clear that even if he said so, the possibility of Chen Hao giving up on Chen Shui was very small. There's no need to choose. I'll start to comprehend now. You and I look after her. Once her energy is about to run out, wake me up immediately. If she wants to die, then she'll die. If she wants to live, then she'll live. Chen Hao disdained to live alone. This is an order. If you dare to disobey, I will kill myself. This. After Chen Hao finished speaking, he did not give the mysterious existence a chance to persuade him. He directly threw away all distracting thoughts and immersed himself in the comprehension without any distractions. Time was everything. He believed that since he had said so, the mysterious existence had no reason to resist him. Until now, Chen Hao still didn't know what kind of existence the mysterious existence was. However, he knew that his goal was to let him step into a realm that his previous masters could not reach. If he died, it would mean that he would fall into the next cycle of reincarnation. He did not know how many years he would have to wait before he could find a new master. How dare he disobey him? His mind merged into the qi of origin that bound his body bit by bit. Chen Hao's brain became empty, but it was operating at a high speed that he had never experienced before. It was like a super powerful computer, precisely calculating any subtle fluctuations of the qi of origin and grasping the mysteries within. Chen Shui's mind was chanting the primary outline of the Great Tao like the evening drum and morning bell. She was multitasking, and at the same time, she was repairing her body that was instantly crushed by the barrier. Time passed by minute, and the vital essence in Chen Shui's dantian became less and less. However, her physical body was recovering at an astonishing speed. Under this mentality of certain death, Chen Shui put down all the baggage, all distracting thoughts, and achieved the true state of thoughtlessness. This made the primary outline of the Great Tao, which she only felt a little effect, exert an amazing effect at this moment. For hours, it only took 4 hours. Usually, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to recover her physical body without the help of elixirs. However, it magically returned to normal. The beautiful face that was almost squashed by Chen Hao regained its former vigor. Moreover, in this state of restraining energy and trying not to let the energy leak out, although she and Chen Hao were still close together, they were no longer in a squashed state. She could clearly feel Chen Hao's state. What made her slightly surprised was that at this moment, Chen Hao's aura did not seem to be consumed in the slightest. It was still in a full state. However, she only had less than 40% of her energy left. Moreover, even though she was in a completely restrained state, her energy was still rapidly depleting. At this rate, she would run out of energy in less than a day. She could feel the mental fluctuations emitted by Chen Hao. It was a kind of fluctuation with a high frequency that she could not imagine. It was obvious that Chen Hao was comprehending the mystery of this barrier. She did not dare to disturb him. She could only quietly feel him close to her body and feel her energy depleting bit by bit. Time passed by minute. Chen Hao's energy was still full, but Chen Shui's energy was decreasing bit by bit. Was she going to die from exhaustion? Perhaps he could really break through the barrier? All kinds of thoughts, as Chen Shui felt her life depleting, entered her mind. She did not know why Chen Hao's energy was always full, but she knew that if Chen Hao could really maintain this state, he could really break through the barrier. However, she was afraid that she would not be able to see it. She had a lot of things that she wanted to tell Chen Hao. She had a lot of secrets that she wanted to tell Chen Hao. However, she still restrained herself and did not disturb Chen Hao. If he could walk out of the barrier, why would she need to say those meaningless words? These words, she could only say if Chen Hao wanted to quietly wait for death with her. Although it was also meaningless, at least the two of them would die together without any secrets. Gently sighing in her heart, Chen Shui's mouth revealed a calm and relieved smile. She was praying for him. She was also recalling everything that had happened since she knew him. The first time, when she first stepped into the cultivation world, the disciple of the 100 Empire ranking went to the Endless Sea to gain experience. Because of curiosity and also because she was not afraid, her other identity became his scapegoat. When she saw him for the first time, how did she feel? At that time, she did not understand. Now, she understood, just like when Chen Hao and Xia Yu met for the first time. Some things were destined by fate, the feeling that arose from the first time they met. When she did not know her true identity, she discovered that his father was the person that her master had been searching for over 100 years. This made her secretly happy. She had always been competing with him in every aspect. One reason was because of her arrogant personality that did not admit defeat. The other reason was because of an indescribable feeling in her heart. Later on, she met him with her real identity. The first time they held hands, the first time they hugged, the first time they kissed. If flying while hugging each other in order to speed up their journey counted as hugging, then being forced to stick together at this moment counted as kissing, then her first time was taken by Chen Hao. There were many regrets. She had yet to truly merge into her true self. She had yet to lift her veil in front of him and reveal her most beautiful self. She had yet to fulfill her mother's wish. She had yet to see her father who made her feel complicated, but to be able to die in his arms like this, and to be in such close contact and even kiss, more or less, it could be considered a kind of consolation, right? As her thoughts ran wild, Chen Shui became weaker and weaker. Her thoughts became slower and slower. Only the heat from Chen Hao's body made her feel a trace of warmth. Her energy is about to run out. The voice of the mysterious existence, carrying a trace of confusion and depression, quietly appeared in the mind of Chen Hao, who was immersed in his comprehension. Chen Shui, whose consciousness had already become a little fuzzy due to the exhaustion of her energy, suddenly felt her lips being forcefully separated by the black veil. Little Shui, focus your mind. I will imbue you with energy. That if you want to take the sky bridge, hurry up. Don't hide, and don't be embarrassed. We have no choice. At the same time, Chen Hao's voice resounded in her mind. Faintly, Chen Shui could feel the confusion in Chen Hao's voice. Don't hide? How could she have the strength to hide? Don't be embarrassed? She, who had already sunk into a muddle-headed state, how could she know how to be embarrassed? Their tongues touched. Even though there was a thin veil between them, Chen Hao's mind trembled, and his entire body was filled with blood. As for Chen Shui, only a trace of ripple appeared in her heart. Her delicate body, which was almost ice-cold and stiff, could not be excited. Hiss. Pure and majestic true origin instantly passed through Chen Hao and into Chen Shui's body. After a moment, Chen Shui, who had received the replenishment of energy, the speed of her blood circulation gradually increased. Her mind was also quickly refining the unstoppable true origin. But most of her mind was focused on her small mouth. She did not dare to move at all, and she could not move at all. Her fragrant tongue, which was supposed to be slippery and agile, was stiff and numb as it received Chen Hao's energy. Don't be distracted, use all your strength to refine. Chen Hao's voice sounded again. This caused Chen Shui, who was gradually becoming lively, to be extremely shy. But immediately, she forcefully focused her mind and quickly refined the vigorous and pure true origin that Chen Hao passed to her, turning it into her own energy, more than 10 minutes later. I'll comprehend first. You can't comprehend this barrier, so don't try. Restrain yourself and reduce the consumption to the minimum. Wait for me. Don't ask, wait until we get out, I'll explain to you. Chen Shui did not have time to think as Chen Hao poured more and more energy into her. She could only refine with all her strength. But when her energy had just reached a full state, Chen Hao did not give her a chance to ask and directly said. After he finished speaking, he once again immersed himself in comprehension. In fact, Chen Hao's mind was completely multitasking. He did not stop comprehending, but only separated a part of his mind to pour energy into Chen Shui. Minimizing the consumption. His energy is always in a full state, but he did not absorb the energy of heaven and earth. Could it be, she used a secret technique to absorb the energy of the primordial crystal stones or spirit spring that he brought? How long can this consumption last? Can he comprehend in the time that it lasts? When Chen Hao once again immersed himself in comprehension, various thoughts appeared in Chen Shui's mind. In a moment, she knew that she had become a burden to him. I got the results today. Fortunately, it's not as serious as the doctor said the day before yesterday. But the problem is not small. He prescribed a bunch of medicine for oral consumption and a tractor to hang his head up and stretch his neck and cervical spine. Every day he has to hang himself 3 times. Once every 2 days, he has to go to physiotherapy and use something to warm himself up for half an hour. These few days, Dark Mountain cooperates with the treatment, so he can't sit for too long. He can only try to write as much as possible. Chapter 360. What should she do? If she could, Chen Shui would not hesitate. However, she did not dare and could not do so. She didn't dare to, because if she were to use her energy to self-destruct, she would probably destroy Chen Hao who was close to her. She couldn't, because if she couldn't self-destruct, she could only wait for her energy to run out. However, when she ran out of energy, she could not reject Chen Hao's infusion of energy. Furthermore, based on her understanding of Chen Hao would not abandon her. The only thing she could do was to follow Chen Hao's instructions and reduce her energy consumption as much as possible. Phew! Chen Shui heaved a long sigh of relief in her heart. She completely retracted her mind and threw away all distracting thoughts as she immersed herself in her energy center. The energy, essence, spirit, and consciousness in her body began to converge towards her energy center. At the same time, she continued to recite the abstruse outline of the Great Tao in her mind. Gradually, the energy that naturally flowed out of her body became less and less. She became weaker and weaker, and her energy consumption also decreased. Her aura became weaker and weaker, as if she had entered a deep hibernation state. There were only the mysterious characters floating in her mind, and there was not a trace of distracting thoughts. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Chen Shui and Chen Hao were in a race against time. One was immersed in comprehension while the other was immersed in restraint. After 3 whole days, 6 figures flew over. There were 3 males and 3 females. The 3 females were all rare beauties. Of the 3 youths, one of them was handsome and had an imposing appearance. As for the other 2 youths, one of them was unusually tall and had a rough appearance. He had a wild aura. The other was short and fat. However, without exception, they were all extremely young and had reached the half-step primordial soul stage. The aura around them was even stronger than the previous one. Especially the handsome youth who stood in front of them was obviously the leader of the 6. What a beautiful valley! Is this the legendary 9th Hell Frosty Pool? One of the pretty girls who was holding the youth's arm said as she looked down. Her eyes shone with excitement. Yes, this is the 9th Hell Frosty Pool. Everyone, don't go any closer. The barrier is 3,000 meters below. The 9 Nether Frost Pond was one of the 10 most dangerous places. Although it is not the strongest of the 10 great danger grounds, it is even more mysterious and terrifying than the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range, which is ranked first. The imposing young man had a faint smile on his face as he squinted his eyes and stared at the 9 nether frost pool beneath him. The reason why the aura of the demon beasts in this area is so weak is because of the existence of the 9th hell frosty pool. It was so beautiful that anyone who saw it, even if they were demonic beasts, would be uncontrollably attracted to it and be buried in it. What's even stranger is that you can sense it carefully. Don't you feel a faint sense of summoning? Indeed, if we didn't come here specifically to see the 9 underworlds frost pond, but encountered it by chance and didn't realize that this was the 9 underworlds frost pond, what would you do? I will definitely go down and take a look. Phew. Brother Lin, let's hurry up and leave. If we keep watching, I might not be able to resist the urge to jump down. I have the same feeling. The other young men and women also agreed. When they thought of the legend of the 9 frozen pools, their eyes revealed a trace of fear. So beautiful. Brother Hao, I really want to go down and take a look. What's that? The first girl to speak was attracted by the beautiful and illusory 9 underworlds frost pond as she spoke. Just as she was speaking, she suddenly seemed to have seen something. Her eyes abruptly opened wide as she pointed down and exclaimed in surprise. It's 2 people, Hearing the girl's words, everyone's gazes followed the direction of the girl's finger. Exerting their vision, they instantly saw 2 motionless figures that were tightly pressed together. The pupils of the imposing young man suddenly constricted as he seemed to have thought of something. He said, "Could it be them?" The imposing young man took a deep breath and said, "Before we came, I intended to invite the 2 people who came with us. Chen Hao and Chen Shui?" Everyone was shocked in their hearts. This imposing young man was none other than the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, the #1 expert of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City, Lin Hao. The 5 people beside him were all outstanding figures of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City. After carefully sizing them up for a moment, Lin Hao's expression carried a trace of regret as he shook his head and said, "It should be them, what a pity." Although he had missed the battle between Chen Hao and Chen Shui and the 30 peerless geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands and hadn't seen the 2 of them, he had learned of their appearances from the appraiser. At this moment, the 2 of them were dressed in black and their faces couldn't be seen. However, Chen Shui, who was wearing a black veil, and the silhouette of the 2 of them were exactly the same as the illusions condensed by the appraiser. When he recalled that the 2 of them hadn't left through the teleportation formation, he confirmed his guess. "Let's go. Don't look anymore." Seeing the shocked expressions of everyone, Lin Hao hurriedly said. He was very clear that if they continued to stay, they would probably lose control, and he was no exception. This was because the 9 underworlds frost pond would cause the desire in one's heart to become stronger and stronger as one stared at it. In the end, it would evolve into an unstoppable force. They had specially come here this time just to experience it and didn't want to die here. "Let's go." The 6 figures swayed as they resisted the urge to take another look and turned around to leave. All of them headed to the nearest Dragon Cliff City. Although Lin Hao wanted to get to know Chen Hao and Chen Shui, he had no intention of saving them. It was not that he didn't want to, but he couldn't. There was no one in the world who could save them. She actually held on for 5 days? When he received the mysterious existence's reminder again, Chen Hao was multitasking. He continued to comprehend while instilling energy into Chen Shui. What surprised him was that Chen Shui actually held on for 5 full days under the mysterious primary outline of the Great Path before her energy was depleted. This was completely beyond the expectations of the mysterious existence and Chen Hao. One must know that even if Chen Hao wasn't affected by the origin, he definitely wouldn't be able to hold on for 5 days if the mysterious existence didn't continuously provide him with energy. Moreover, what surprised Chen Hao even more was that at this moment, Chen Shui was still immersed in a deep level of silence and didn't wake up even after he instilled energy into her. Could it be because of the primary outline of the Great Path? Chen Hao pondered as he sensed the mysterious and extremely restrained aura in Chen Shui's elixir field. Based on Chen Hao's understanding of Chen Shui, it seemed that other than the unknown mysterious power of the primary outline of the Great Path, There was nothing else that could make Chen Shui enter such a state. This made Chen Hao look forward to it. For the past few days, he had tried his best and his brain was constantly calculating and grasping the mystery of the barrier. However, he couldn't understand it at all. It could be said that there was no progress at all. It felt as if he had encountered the solitary sword technique that was 100 or 1,000 times stronger than him. It was constantly changing irregularly and Chen Hao couldn't figure it out at all. The primary outline of the Great Path is the origin of the Great Path. The 3,000 Great Paths originated from the primary outline of the Great Path. And this primordial chi is the unique origin of this world. Origin against origin. Yes, it must be so. The mystery of this barrier is just like the primary outline of the Great Path. I can't grasp any clues at all. Maybe the mystery of the primary outline of the Great Path can help me comprehend it. Thinking of this, Chen Hao's strand of mind didn't join the comprehension anymore. Instead, he directly began to recite the primary outline of the Great Path. Compared to Chen Hao's recitation of the primary outline of the Great Path was naturally much stronger. In a moment, the sound of the evening drum and morning bell resounded in Chen Hao's mind. As he recited, he comprehended the mystery of the barrier. He still couldn't comprehend it and couldn't sense any abnormalities. However, Chen Hao didn't stop reciting and repeated it over and over again. As time passed, the speed and rhythm of Chen Hao's recitation gradually began to have an imperceptible change. The characters seemed to be in sync with the mysterious frequency of the barrier and produced a slight resonance. Although it wasn't obvious, it was caught by Chen Hao. Although Chen Hao still didn't comprehend the slightest bit, this slight change made Chen Hao overjoyed. He knew that he was in the right direction. In the blink of an eye, 6 months passed by in a hurry. Chen Hao's consumption became less and less. From 5 days after the first infusion by Chen Hao, it continued to be extended. The second time was 7 days, and then it could be extended a little each time. In a full 6 months, Chen Hao only instilled 17 times. If not for this, the primordial crystal stones and spirit spring stored in Chen Hao's mind space would have been exhausted 3 months ago. After all, although the mysterious existence could refine the energy of the primordial crystal stones and spirit spring and transfer it to Chen Hao, it was an extremely complicated and wasteful process. Less than 1,000th of it could be used. According to the mysterious existence's estimation, if Chen Hao was alone, he could support himself for a year just by relying on the primordial crystal stones. When he told Chen Hao that he could only support himself for half a year, it was just to give Chen Hao more pressure. Because he knew that Chen Hao was the kind of person who could explode more the more pressure he was under. However, he didn't expect Chen Shui to be able to reduce her consumption to such an extent. After supporting the two of them for half a year, the primordial crystal stones had just been exhausted. Only the spirit spring is left. This spirit spring can be used at the end. Once the spirit spring is used up, it can't be used again. So, Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, Qilin, all of you come over. In Chen Hao's mind, the 5 divine beasts, treasure-hunting sword spirit, Ito Tai, and the mysterious existence that vaguely looked like an old man were all standing around the spirit spring. At this moment, the mysterious existence glanced at the 5 divine beasts and said, Ito Tai was only a remnant soul and didn't have any energy to provide. Although the treasure-hunting sword spirit contained a huge amount of energy, in Chen Hao's mind, it was the second in line. The mysterious existence naturally wanted to start with the 5 divine beasts, who had the lowest status. To be continued. Chapter 361. Of course, it was not to erase them. It was only to release their energy by removing their fusion with Chen Hao. As long as Chen Hao could survive this crisis, they could merge again in the future. Yes. The 5 divine beasts swayed and arrived in front of the mysterious existence. Immediately, they formed the 5 divine beast marks and began to circulate slowly. The mysterious existence formed a series of mysterious runes that enveloped the 5 divine beasts. Majestic and vigorous energy suddenly emitted from the 5 divine beasts, and under the control of the mysterious existence, it constantly replenished Qin Hao's consumption. In the 7th month, the 5 divine beasts became 5 fist-sized divine beast marks. There was no more energy to be extracted, and they also lost all connection with Qin Hao. The treasure-hunting sword spirit also bravely sacrificed itself. The mysterious existence could only begin to sacrifice the spirit spring, and he became more and more worried. Only the spirit spring is left. I have already set up a Qiankuan spirit gathering formation for this spirit spring, and its efficiency is 100 times higher than the Yuan crystal stones. But it is still too little. At most, it can last for a month. Is Qin Hao really going to die here? Even the mysterious existence did not expect the qi of origin of this world to be so difficult to comprehend. He was very clear about how strong Qin Hao's comprehension was. But it had already been 7 months, and it had far exceeded his expectations. Qin Hao's current state was even more mysterious. Even he did not know how far he had progressed and when he would succeed. 3 days later, 1/10 of the spirit spring had been consumed. 6 days later, 2/10 of the spirit spring had been consumed. The mysterious existence became more and more worried. But just as the 7th day began, a buzzing tremor suddenly sounded in Qin Hao's mind. Buzz buzz. Accompanied by the vast and magnificent chanting that sounded like the evening drum and morning bell, Qin Hao's mind, which had fused with the barrier, seemed to have become one with every syllable and the mysteries of the barrier. From the initial subtle resonance to the current violent tremor, the quantitative change finally reached a qualitative change. Qin Hao had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He could clearly sense the disappearance of the auras of the 5 divine beasts and the treasure-hunting sword spirit. He also knew that this was the final moment. In 7 months and 6 days, Qin Hao's arms had already completely embraced Qin Shui in his embrace. He had made all the necessary preparations. He had been waiting for this moment to come. The violent tremors seemed to have no pattern, and there were thousands of changes in an instant. However, every single tremor appeared clearly in Qin Hao's mind. There was still no pattern, but because of the profound Grand Tao outline, they were all within Qin Hao's foresight. Qin Hao's mind was fully utilized at that instant, as he was multitasking. Finally, the moment a huge shock arrived, Qin Hao, who had been in peak condition all this time, the energy around his body skyrocketed in an instant. Moreover, at a terrifying speed, he violently used the technique of 4 ounces against 1,000 caddies, following the frequency and direction of the shock waves. Rumble! With an explosive sound, Qin Hao, who was holding Qin Shui, suddenly turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the barrier in 1,000th of a second before the rebound force arrived. Qin Hao, who'd passed through the barrier and stepped into the 9th hell wintry pool, suddenly looked up into the sky and let out a long howl that was clear, excited, and filled with boundless venting. His howl surged like continuous thunderclaps, and it shook the entire gorge to the point of lightly trembling. Numerous pieces of shattered rocks rolled down from the nearby mountain, and the small lake that was tranquil like the surface of a mirror had numerous ripples that were suffused with sparkling and translucent sprays of water. From ancient times until now, no one had broken the tranquility. Finally, Qin Hao broke it. After a full 2 minutes of howling, Qin Hao's excited and wild laughter rang out. 7 months and 6 days, more than half a year's time, this was definitely the most pressure Qin Hao had ever endured. He didn't dare to relax for a moment and was constantly in a high level of comprehension. If it were anyone else, their nerves would have collapsed. If it were Qin Hao himself, he would have been able to pass through the barrier 3 months ago. But because of Qin Shui, he had to make the resonance wave become bigger and bigger. Only in this way could he create enough space for him and Qin Shui to pass through at the same time. At this moment, Qin Hao was holding Qin Shui, who had entered the state of hibernation. How could he not be excited? Death, according to legend, anyone who entered the barrier in this world would die, but he succeeded. Not only did he succeed in entering one of the 10 perilous lands, but he also brought Qin Shui in. The 9 Nether Cold Pond, one of the 10 perilous lands in the boundless world, was located in the origin space. Heaven and earth were filled with a vast and majestic ancient aura, and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was extremely dense. What was more amazing was that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here could be directly absorbed without any refining. Moreover, it was the purest origin energy of various attributes. What was the holy land of cultivation? This was it. The so-called holy land of cultivation in the cultivation world, including the miniature heavenly abode in the Sky City, was completely incomparable to this place. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception spread out. The entire space was within Chen Hao's perception. Strange flowers, strange grasses, spirit herbs, spirit trees, even the gravel that had just rolled down from the mountain contained extremely pure energy. The icy azure lake was filled with a dense and pure energy aura. Phew! In more than 7 months, all my losses will be recovered from here 10 times, 100 times. Chen Hao let out a long breath, looked at the entire space, and said excitedly in his heart. Immediately, he looked at Chen Shui, who was like a docile and well-behaved kitten in his arms. Little Shui can actually enter such a deep level of restraint, it's really inconceivable. Fortunately, she has reached this state, otherwise, her energy would not have been able to last until now. Let's first replenish her energy and then wake her up. Thinking of this, Chen Hao's figure flashed and came to the lakeside, where there was a large stone that was more round and sparkling than jade, and gently put Chen Shui on it. At this moment, Chen Shui's energy was almost depleted. She was obviously in an extremely weak state. If she hadn't come in yet, then it was time to replenish her energy. Lying flat on the large stone, Chen Shui's soft breasts were tall and straight, and the black robe could not cover her graceful and exquisite body. The thin veil clung to her beautiful face, and her eyes were closed, as if she was in a deep sleep, emitting a temptation that no man could resist. He, Chen Hao, who was in a good mood, unscrupulously admired her for a full 2 minutes, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a slightly devilish arc, and he chuckled. At this moment, he could move as usual and no longer had to worry about the barrier's restraint, and he had 100 ways to instill energy into Chen Shui. But after experiencing this life and death crisis, he did not think of any other methods, and directly leaned down and pressed on Chen Shui's body. There was no ambiguity. Eyebrows to eyebrows, nose to nose, big mouth to small mouth, strong chest muscles to soft but elastic twin peaks. Can't he enjoy the wine today, but can't he enjoy the charm for a short time? He was lucky to survive this time. What if he died? That would be too unjust, too unwilling, too tragic. Feeling the fullness and firmness under his body, Chen Hao secretly praised in his heart, knowing that Chen Shui could not feel anything at this moment, which made this guy as bold as a tiger. Not only did he press on her, but he also rubbed back and forth a few times. Until he was afraid that he could not control himself, then he finally stopped. Gently opening his mouth, he decisively separated Chen Shui's delicate lips. Still separated by the veil. In fact, Chen Hao really wanted to take off Chen Shui's veil and really look at Chen Shui's face, but this kind of desire was forcefully suppressed by him. Because, although he did not know the reason, he knew that this veil must have an extraordinary meaning to Chen Shui. Otherwise, why would Chen Shui hide their relationship with a veil? And Chen Hao also knew that this veil was not an ordinary veil. This was Chen Shui's secret, and it was a secret that could not be told to him. Soon, he touched Chen Shui's smooth and soft tongue. Different from when they were in the barrier, this time, although he did not get Chen Shui's response, this guy enjoyed it for a while with the veil between them. It felt good. If he took off the veil, it would feel even better, right? That's for sure. Unfortunately, it could only stop here. They kissed for another 3 minutes. Chen Hao, who did not want to play with fire, finally began to do business. He quickly poured energy into Chen Shui's body. After a while, Chen Hao urged his mind, integrated into Chen Shui's mind, and began to call out. Little Shui, wake up, we are out. Are we out? Are we really out? Chen Shui, who was in a state of deep restraint, seemed to be half asleep and half awake. Under Chen Hao's shouts that had the effect of shaking the soul, she stopped chanting like the evening drum and morning bell and said in her mind, wake up, Chen Hao naturally could not hear Chen Shui's self-talk in her mind, and kept shouting. After a while, Chen Shui finally completely woke up, and the first thing she felt was Chen Hao's heavy body, and the state she was in with him, kissing. At the same time, she also sensed the surrounding aura. "Are you awake? That's great. We just came in." Chen Hao caught Chen Shui's aura, and just at the moment when Chen Shui opened her eyes, he jumped up and said. In Chen Shui's mind, it was as if the two were still in the state of fusion, and had just stepped into this place, and had not had time to separate. Chen Shui slowly opened her beautiful eyes, as if she couldn't wake up from that deep level of hibernation. Her eyes were squinted, as if a strong light was piercing her eyes. She saw Chen Hao standing in front of her. The little face that was like a sleeping baby gradually turned into surprise, and her eyes opened wider and wider. Immediately, they shone with strong surprise, and she jumped up with an What made Chen Hao surprised was that Chen Shui, who seemed to be in disbelief and too surprised, actually threw herself into his arms, tightly, hugging him. Her arms circled around Chen Hao's neck, her legs wrapped around Chen Hao's waist, and she used all her strength, as if she wanted to merge into Chen Hao's body, or as if she was afraid that if she did not use enough strength, the Chen Hao in front of her would disappear. Author's note: there is no such thing as fairness in the world. It is all about mutual deception, and the weak are prey to the strong. Even if you have a righteous heart, you will still be bullied by others. If you do not want to be bullied, you have to create a world for yourself. I want to break the rules, ethics, and order, and build a world that belongs to my heart. Book number 2457289 that you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.